by both the chairperson of the committee and the speaker, should Mr. O'Sullivan not comply with the committee's invitation.
Water and Sanitation Minister Phemi Majodina says government is exploring a range of measures to alleviate the water crisis in the country. She elaborated on the measures while visiting the Lower Umkomazi water project on the KwaZulu-Natal South Coast. She says government will focus mostly on people who have no water infrastructure at home. Majodina says national government is looking into the possibility to buy water tankers that would be used by municipalities. Water sources that are receiving attention include boreholes, windmills, water harvesting and housing projects, and extracting water from springs. A South African father is pleading for urgent government intervention as tensions escalate in the Middle East following attacks by the United States and Israel on Iran and Iran's retaliation. Saeed Abdullah Husseini says he has not been able to contact his daughter, who lives in Iran, for 5 days. The conflict, which has intensified over the past week, has led to airspace closures, security fears, internet shutdowns, and the shutdown of some diplomatic missions in affected areas. Husseini has called on government to make alternative arrangements for citizens stuck in affected countries to be able to secure visas and return home safely.
The minimum thing which the South African, the Foreign Ministry of South Africa can do is to create a facility that VFS, which is open in Tehran, and receive applications for visas for other countries. They should be allowed to accept the visa applications for people who are supposed to come to South Africa, loved ones which they want to travel to South Africa, and they can receive those applications via.
The Iranian embassy in South Africa says Tehran will continue to be the staunch advocate of diplomacy following joint military attacks from the U.S. and Israel, which also killed Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei. The tension has brought the Middle East into chaos as the aviation sector has been affected, leaving travelers stranded in different airports. Iran's cultural counselor in South Africa, Sayed Mustafa Darbari, says the death of Khamenei does not signal Iran's surrender.
Iran has been and will continue to be a staunch advocate for diplomacy. We have never been the aggressors in this conflict. For months, we have engaged in negotiation in the hope of achieving a peaceful resolution. Yet, despite these efforts, we were attacked while dialogue was still ongoing, an unjust and unprovoked act of aggression that Iran will not ignore.
Recapping the top story, motorists can expect to pay more at the fuel pump this month as prices are set to increase from Wednesday amid rising geopolitical tensions in the Middle East. I'm Undlamana for SFM News Headlines at 3:30.
In sports this hour, Standard Bank signs 4-year sponsorship deal with SAFA ahead of the 2026 World Cup, and Afghanistan to tour India for 1 test and 3 ODIs in June. More details at 3:30.
Every day, Rand Water's underground pipelines run through servitudes across the country, carrying millions of litres of water to our communities. But when people build too close, it's called encroachment, and it's very dangerous. If a pipeline bursts, it can flood homes, destroy property, and in many cases, people lose their lives. That's why Rand Water marks its servitudes with blue and white beacons, a clear warning to stay clear and safe. When we protect Rand Water's servitudes, we protect our communities too. Rand Water, finding new ways.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
I am making a call in all my capacity as King of the Zulu Nation. This move is long overdue as we seek to restore our history, our identity and our dignity. When Vasco da Gama arrived in Durban in December 1497 and decided to come up with the same name, Natal, at this part of the world, which was already known as KwaZulu. Can I just pause there for a minute? KwaZulu. KwaZulu. Kodwa asinikezwe elinye igama. What they claim is Vasco da Gama discovered KZN. He discovered it. You know, the West does have this tendency of using these fancy words like discover. They discovered it. How do you discover something when people, they are already living there? M.C. Rogers. I'm going to discover your car when I get out of here. Dinabesilo. Ukphefumula nje. You know, you don't discover something that's already been discovered. Dinabesilo. I am making a call as I continue. I am making a call to this province to be the new name, a new so-called name, KwaZulu, and take the name Natal away.
Right, so there we are. Think about that, and what a way to start the show on a Monday with regard to the National Pulse. No Madlanga Commission, no ad hoc committee, but what we have, maybe, just maybe, no Natal as well. We're used to calling it KwaZulu Natal or KZN. Can you just imagine saying KwaZulu or KZ? That's it. Well, that's not my opinion. That is really the play being put forward by King Musi Zwelithini, calling now for the removal of Natal, and you've just heard the clip from that title of KwaZulu Natal. It's an interesting thought to go back to the historical reasons why, when the provinces were changed for democratic South Africa, the Natal part stayed. For example, Transvaal didn't stay when we called it Gauteng, and so on, right? Okay, let's try and understand what this really means. With me, Professor Jabulani Mphahlala, the president of the African Historians and advisor to King Mushizulu Zwelithini. In fact, it's Jabulani Mphahlala, right? So the advisor has written 10 history books about the Kingdom of KwaZulu-Natal or KwaZulu. My name is Ashraf Garda. This is the National Pulse. You can, in fact, respond right away. So if I asked you, would you support the dropping of Natal from KwaZulu-Natal? What do you say? Yay or nay? You can WhatsApp right away, 0614 104 107. You can tweet. You can also post comments on our Facebook page as well. Right, let's try and understand it with Professor Jabulani Mphahlala. Thanks for your time and much appreciate you joining us on the National Pulse.
Yes, so good afternoon, Ashraf.
Good afternoon indeed.
I wouldn't support Natal. You see, in 1824, 35 British settlers arrived in an area which was called KwaZulu. They requested for residential sites, and they were allowed to settle where in a place called Esbubulung. They renamed it Port Natal. You see. Mm-hmm. But nobody was very much concerned at that time because there were fewer in number, and King Shaka was administering the place. So that is how Natal has cropped in with these British who were allowed to stay here to hunt, getting ivory allowed by King Shaka. So that otherwise, if you look at the sources, King Shaka's praises, the whole kingdom of King Shaka went as far as Umzimvubu, further south. That was the boundary, and then along the Ukashamba. So there's no way that Natal can be dramatized and be highlighted to be something else. But the ANC, which has been fighting with the ISP for a long time, according to Mabuya Kulu, they made a clandestine deal that, well, Natal is there. It can't be KwaZulu, tribalists or whatever. So Mabuya Kulu has confirmed that this last week, that no, it can't change because they had a deal with the whites at Codesa. So that it becomes now a very big thing, a big issue unnecessarily. And besides, Mike Mabuya Kulu knows very well, because he's a Zulu, that once the king has spoken, nobody contradicts what he has spoken. After that, that is a fundamental custom respected by all the Zulu people. But
all right. But let's understand this, right? So yes, we know it was historically called KwaZulu. A lot has happened in our country. Then it became Natal as we know it. Then we had this democratic settlement, right? Now, the fact that it was negotiated, so many different things have already been negotiated. If we look at our negotiated settlement, what would be the benefit to drop the Natal from KwaZulu Natal if it was negotiated in the build-up to the 1994 election?
We do not agree with Mike Mabuya Kulu, because I was there in Codesa representing the king. We were together with Frank Mlalos. I was there. We didn't see that meeting. I was having a book explaining what you call which was left Codesa, where I was explaining how the kingdom of KwaZulu was administered. We did not see what Mabuya Kulu is saying. There was that agreement.
So here's an interesting thought, and a person tweeting as a political stratu, or in fact, ironically, Kwame Nkrumah, I mean, people use their own names on Twitter, saying, nay, KZN is a province that belongs to South Africa, not to the Zulu people, and calling it KwaZulu will only rubber stamp Zulu nationalism, which can be very divisive. Does that person have a point?
Well, they say that because of a long fight, that if you speak Zulu, they will say tribalism. But all of them come here to campaign among the Zulu people to vote for them. So it is ironic, and it's something which is neither here nor there, because the Zulu people are 18 million in number.
Yeah, we understand it. We understand that, but I'm just trying to understand it in the context of the whole of South Africa, that that province currently, not only Zulu people reside in that province, right? Number one. And is there any other province where it would be categorized by an ethnic group in South Africa right now?
Well, it is indirectly run by the Zulu people, because the white people, according to, if you look at their number here, it's 5% at most. That's the number of white people who are living here. So there are very few in numbers. But
yeah, do we still have you there? Maybe not. We just wait. I think we've just lost Professor Jabulani Mapalala. I can hear you. Can we hear you now? You there? Okay. Yeah. Can you hear me now, Prof?
Yeah.
Yeah. We just lost you for a second. Okay. You made the point about the numbers, right? So with the king having pronounced on it, What is the next step?
People, of course, we will side with what the king has said, but Mabuya Kulu has announced division. Well, because I have been always fighting with the IFP and so on, that is something else. The king is apolitical, and all the Zulu people are supporting the king, that the king is right, and I myself as a historian is supporting the king because I know the history. I've published 10 books about Zulu history, I understand.
Yeah, but you see, I'm just trying to understand this part, right? I don't think anybody is disputing the historical region called KwaZulu. What happened in that build-up to the 1994 election, as we know, the IFP joined in at the 11th hour, and part of that negotiated deal was to rename that province KwaZulu Natal. So there's a Zulu element in that, and then still to tag on to Natal. Now, it's probably the only province I know of the 9 that has got this double barrel name. I hear that, right? Now, outside of what the subjects of the Zulu nation may believe, it still has to be contested constitutionally. So therefore, I'm asking, outside emotional thoughts on it, what would be the next step?
Let me remind you that the late King Zwelithini was accompanied by myself and Tanta Mtada. We went to Durban to talk about that. It was opposed by Zweli Mkhize without mentioning any reason. He said, no, it cannot be allowed. So you see, through politics, the Zulu people have been, on each other's throats. But this is ironic also because in all the remembrance of King Shaka and the other celebrations, these are the people who come with their shield, with their leopard skins and so on. So I do not understand what they are up to because we as historians are supposed to be very, very critical when we narrate some facts of history. I do not understand why the opposition.
Well, I mean, I'm going to say this very quickly, and we need to wrap up. I think we all understand the historical part. The opposition is so much of South Africa was negotiated. I mean, as I talk to you now, the Khoi and the San people believe they have a claim, and a lot must be named after them as well. So I'm not saying they're wrong. I'm saying, do you understand that part of a negotiated settlement is agreements made that should be agreements kept? Now, you're saying, in fact, then those agreements can fall away, not just for KwaZulu or for the KwaZulu region, but in fact, we can then bring up the Khoi and the San, and those regions can be named after them as well. Yeah? Just a quick response. We're out of time. Yeah?
Yeah.
All right. I'll tell you what you do. Hold it. Let me get a longer response from you, and we'll do that in a moment. This is the National Pulse. There's a range of people commenting, I can tell you now. And here's one. It's a nay. The king should rather look for ways to uplift the people of KwaZulu-Natal. And someone else saying it must be a different name. I'll play some of those comments, voice notes, in a moment.
You can become a victim of a legal problem: wrongful arrest, assault, uncontested divorce, rental disputes, maintenance matters, or labor problems. It can happen to you. Clientele Legal provides tough professional lawyers for an affordable monthly premium. Our legal team is standing by to assist you 24 hours a day. Join today. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195. Clientele General is an authorized FSP and licensed non-life insurer. T&Cs online. Standard rates apply.
This February, fall in love with food that tells a story. From bold new culinary stars to untamed destinations and unforgettable flavors, Gordon Ramsay brings passion, pressure, and purpose to your screen. Gordon Ramsay Uncharted, Sundays 5 p.m. Only on S3. Open up. S3.
When music meets nature, something unforgettable happens. Symphony by the Water, a world-class live music experience set against the breathtaking beauty of Midmar Dam, featuring the KZN Philharmonic Orchestra. Pogazi, the Black Lapels. Saturday, the 7th of March, 2026. Day tickets from 150, evening tickets from 350. Tickets available at Web Ticket and Pick and Pay. Symphony by the Waters, where sound flows. Ashraf Garda on the National Pulse.
Well, I mean, here's the question to the audience, and you can comment right away. Did you ever wonder why is that one province, why does it have a double barrel name? KwaZulu Natal. And because it's so long, KZN. Why? And do you understand the consequence of that and the historical issues that went into that? Now, of course, my guest, we're going to wrap up with him, Professor Jabulani Mapalana, who's, amongst many other things, a historian, but also an advisor to King Musi Zulu KwaZulu-Natal, who's now made a call to say Natal must be dropped from KwaZulu-Natal. So, Prof, just to end with then, my point to you is, as you state your case, I would suspect that other communities, other regions, other tribes within South Africa can also start stating their case and say, rewrite not just a province, but even regions within a province and rename it after, even if it means smaller provinces. Do you then concur with that? That may well happen, and therefore it may not happen because of that? I think we've just lost the professor for a moment. Let's just do this in the meantime. I want to pick out some comments from you, the audience, right? So here's one.
Ashrat, how are you? I'm fine. Yeah, but I think the problem of changing it to KwaZulu, it will depend to other people. Nah, I don't have a problem. Even if it's not a KwaZulu Natal, what is it that will benefit as a country? Because some of us, we don't have kings where we're staying. I mean, we living in the urban townships, and what is it that the kings will bring, you know? I don't think it will hold hotel.
Okay.
500 in the Israel.
Thanks for that 500. Back to Professor Mapalana. So I asked the question before the break. If we follow your logic or the King's position, then the same may well apply to the Khoi and the San and many others who may stake a claim to a region to say that region must be named after us because we dominate, and we've done that historically. So the question is, we understand the emotional connection. Practically, is this possible?
Well, I'm glad you are raising also the issue of the Khoi. It is correct that the Khoi must also be given their land. Now, on that, I'm very clear they must, because they resisted when Jan van Riebeeck came here. And here in KwaZulu, the KwaZulu-Natal was imposed. I was there at Codesa with Frank Mdlalose and made a presentation. It was never discussed or mentioned. It's only now that Mike Mabuya Kulu says, well, that is the arrangement we made at Codesa. But I do not know what Codesa is speaking about, because I was there myself.
Okay, let me conclude with this, right? You know that, referring to what's come through the tradition amongst the Zulu tradition would be that the king's word is final, right? So he's pronounced on it. Therefore, so that's how much political clout, therefore, would the king's final word have within KwaZulu, the people of KwaZulu, and then the broader South Africa? Because constitutional changes will be required for a name change.
You are right. That can be sorted out through a referendum or plebiscite, which can be more scientific. A referendum. What do the Zulu people say about this? And then that can be a solution in matters of this nature.
Okay, let's leave it at that. In fact, we're having a referendum, I suppose, on air, just asking people to say yay or nay. Professor Jabulani Mapalala, thank you for your time. Much appreciate you joining us here on the National Pulse. So to give you context, the Amazulu Kingdom, the leader, the king, Musi Zulu KwaZulu-Natal, calling for the removal of Natal from KwaZulu-Natal. Do you say yay? Do you say nay? Yes, lots of comments, and I need to play them.
Yeah, right. Hi, Ashraf Eroya from Durban. Hope you're all my friend. Look, no matter what they rename KZN to KwaZulu, it'll always remain KZN to me, no matter what happens. It's just like Port Elizabeth, it's still Port Elizabeth.
Yeah, but many other places have changed. In fact, some of the biggest names, like New York was New Amsterdam a long, long time ago, and Bombay became Mumbai, and Peking became Beijing. I mean, there's so many other examples of that. People get used to it.
Yeah, right.
Oh, okay, let's get that, sorry.
Afternoon, Dr. Ashraf. Nhlanhla Solo here, a great art practitioner from the Val. Using the logic of your guest there, then it means we can also advocate for the Free State to be changed to Basotho and the Eastern Cape to be changed to Ekhoseni, the Northwest to be changed to Batswaneng or Batswanaland if they are going to use the Zulu nationalist tendencies that he's speaking about, that 80% of the people in KwaZulu are Zulu people and it is administered by the Zulus. No. So it's a nay from me. Let them rather look for some things that can uplift the Zulu nation. Let them fix the Ingonyama Trust for the first instance. Thank you.
Okay, interesting call indeed. I mean, you've said something similar to what I raised as well, but point taken.
Good day, Ashraf. So listening in on your guest. So I think South Africa has come a long way. I speak Siswati, and apparently the Swati king believes that I live in Barberton, so he says that Barberton should go back to Eswatini. There are people trying to get the Western Cape or Cape Town out to wherever they want to. So I just think let's just leave things as they are. Yeah, we've come a long way. Let's just leave things as they are.
Leave things as they are. We've come a long way. Well, what do you think? We'll take more comments from you as soon as we can. Right now, we do have to get to the news headlines. It's 3:30. Here's Ondela.
Thank you, Ashraf. On the news headlines, motorists can expect to pay more at the fuel pump this month, with the price of diesel increasing by as much as 65 cents a litre from Wednesday. A legal opinion from Parliament's Legal Services Unit indicates that private investigator Phala Phala flouted both the rules of Parliament as well as the terms of reference of the ad hoc committee. And Israel and the United States have continued to pummel Tehran for a third day. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the M1 southbound in central Johannesburg, slow moving towards Crown Interchange, and there's a stationary vehicle on the N1 northbound after Winnie Mandela Drive ramp. In KZN, Umgeni Road westbound, slow moving through Springfield Park, and there's an obstruction on the N2 southbound at Higginson Highway ramp. The left lane is blocked. In Cape Town, the M5 northbound slow moving through the N1 Koeberg interchange and Victoria Road outbound slow moving through Woodstock. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Duming Khapele.
Right, Jimmy, it's a World Cup year, and of course Bafana is the key component within SAFA, but you can say they've struck a deal where they can bank on it, right?
Absolutely. A very good afternoon to you, Ashraf, and our listeners. Well, the South African Football Association has announced that Standard Bank is the new sponsor of all its national teams for the next 4 years. The sponsorship covers the senior men's and women's national teams and all national junior teams, both male and female. And SAFA President Danny Jordan says that the deal is a major boost as the country prepares for the 2026 FIFA World Cup, where Bafana will play for the first time in 16 years.
So we are looking at this being a significant moment so that the brand is sustained. And what we have to do then is to look at the beginning of a new term, a longer term, and that comes in the form of what we call at SAFA Vision 2030. So we have already planned from 2026 to 2030. You know, in world football, you plan within 4 years, from 2022 to 2026, from 2026 to 2030. So in the plan of 2030, what is already secured is a reliable financial partner in the form of Standard Bank.
Meanwhile, Marumo Gallants have announced the suspension of their French head coach Alexandre Lafitte pending an internal disciplinary process. This is relating to a failure to comply with contractual duties. This comes after a poor run of form in the Betway Premiership. Gallants have gone 12 matches without a win, and they're currently 14th on the log, just above the relegation zone on goal difference, and an acting head coach will be appointed soon. Then Kaizer Chiefs goalkeeper Brandon Peterson is set to be discharged from hospital today. This is after having his appendix removed on Friday. Players usually need 3 to 6 weeks to recover from this kind of surgery, but the club has not said exactly how long he'll be out. The injury is also a setback for his hopes of being selected for the South African national football team squad as a backup goalkeeper for next month's friendly matches against Panama national football team. Then in terms of cricket, Afghanistan will tour India in June for a 1-test and 3-match ODI series. The tour begins with a test on the 6th of June, followed by ODIs in Dharamshala, Lucknow and Chennai. Then after the IPL finishes on the 31st of May, the series marks Afghanistan's return to India, where they previously used the country as a cricketing base before relocating to the UAE. And in terms of rugby, Lions captain Frankie Horn says that the team is proud of to the South African field in the United Rugby Championship. The Lions secured the title after beating the Stormers 24-10 on Saturday. They then benefited from a big win by the Bulls, who defeated the Sharks 41-12 at Loftus. So the result means no other team can catch the Lions on the standings, with only one local derby left to play. The Lions won 4 of their 6 South African derby matches to finish on 19 points, and the Sharks ended on 16 points, while the Bulls and the Stormers have 12 and 9 points respectively. On that note, it is a wrap from my side for now. I'll have more in the next hour.
You know what? You to me, you wore an Orlando Pirates top on Friday.
What did I say?
Well, you wore an Orlando Pirates top on Friday.
I think I'm interested in what I actually said.
You wore an Orlando Pirates top on Friday. And an Orlando Pirates top on Friday. I'm saying it 3 times and 1 for the win. Okay, so you got it right. Well done to you. Thanks for that, Tumi.
This February, fall in love with food that tells a story. From bold new culinary stars to untamed destinations and unforgettable flavors, Gordon Ramsay brings passion, pressure, and purpose to your screen. Gordon Ramsay Uncharted, Sundays 5 p.m. Only on S3. Open up. S3.
You're listening to the National Pulse on SAFM.
Right, we'll take more calls. I know lots of people wanting to comment on that issue. And amongst the points that you've heard, to say, let's extend that to go across the board, Basotho, Eastern Cape, wherever, go across the board. And where does that stop, right? Number one. The other is the point to say, is this a play for, Zulu nationalism? And the third one is that, yes, we don't like KwaZulu-Natal, drop Natal, but drop KwaZulu as well. Just create a different provincial name anyway. And the fourth one, and someone else said this to say, I can see this is the beginning of a separatist movement. All of that and more. You are entitled to bring up your thoughts, because your opinion does matter here on the National Pulse. Well, what are your thoughts regarding what's happened in Iran? And you can see even if you have, when people say, well, you know what, who cares what's happening in the Middle East? In 1 minute, it matters to you. If you were there in the Middle East planning to come home, you couldn't get home, you still are not home. Or if you're planning to go there, you couldn't go. And in 1 minute, the Straits of Hormuz gets shut down, potentially petrol prices going sky high, the world's economy, maybe I'm putting too hard a touch on it, grinding to a halt, and you think it's not your business. Well, it clearly is your business. But let's try and understand exactly what's happened here from the point of the leader of Iran being killed, assassinated, and many of his colleagues as well, to an attack and then counter-attacks as we've seen. With me, Zeenat Adam, Deputy Executive Director at the Afro-Middle East Center. Zeenat, appreciate your time here on the National Pulse.
Good afternoon, Ashraf, and good afternoon to your listeners.
Thank you. So let me start with this. I mean, there's so many elements to what has happened over the last few days, right? But if you had to put this down into just one word to describe all of this, like a book title, what would you say?
Chaos.
Chaos. Got it. Help us understand. Let me start at the beginning here. This preemptive attack, rather. Why was there a need for a preemptive attack by the USA, Israel?
Any preemptive attack would only be justified if there is an imminent danger. The Operation Epic Fury and Roaring Lion have stated that this is what they were responding to, but in actual fact, this is a blatant lie. Netanyahu has been claiming there's an imminent threat since 1996. That's 30 years of him claiming this. The night before the attack, the Omanis, who were the chief mediators in Oman and in Geneva, said that they were so close to signing a deal. The pens were ordered, the signing ceremony was planned, the agreement was printed, and that Iran had agreed to zero stockpiling of enriched uranium. They agreed to full IAEA inspections, and they agreed to never, ever go ahead with exploring the idea of nuclear weapons. And yet the following day, this is what we all woke up to.
So, having said that close to a deal, and the next day there's the preemptive attack. What is your understanding then of it? Like, why would they do so? I have my own suspicions, but I mean, best we hear it from you.
Well, last week we heard from the chief American negotiator, Steve Witkoff, saying, why won't they capitulate? And I think that's really telling to the mindset of the Americans, that they were not negotiating in good faith, and that they were really in support of the Israeli mindset. We then heard from Mike Huckabee in an interview with Tucker Carlson saying that Israel can take the entire region, and really plundering this region into total chaos may very well be the direction that Israel wants to take this in.
Now, let's just talk about the legal aspect for the moment. So, America, Israel attacks the Iranians, whatever their motive may be, and they say preemptive because of the threat of an attack from the Iranians. In terms of international law, is that allowed? And in terms of what has happened now, what would be the repercussions legally, that is, for Iran, for the USA, as well as for Israel? Keeping in mind there's also been counter-attacks from the Iranians now to Israel proper and other Middle Eastern countries in that region.
Any country can conduct a preemptive strike if they believe that there is an imminent threat, but they have to be able to prove that. And under Article 51 of the UN Charter, they have not been able to do that. This has not gone through the United Nations or any multilateral organizations. This has been a unilateral decision. The Americans have also gone through without even congressional approval of this, which is also illegal, not just in terms of international law, but in terms of American law. So it really does raise a number of questions, but we're already seeing that other countries are beginning to get involved. The United Kingdom and France have indicated that they will be entering the space as well. The GCC countries have no choice. They've been attacked, and some of the attacks this morning really speak to what you said in your introductory remarks, Ashraf, about how this is going to impact on us and on the global economy. This morning we saw an attack on Aramco, the Saudi oil infrastructure. We saw attacks on Ras Laffan, which is the LNG facility for Qatar, and Qatar has halted their LNG production, resulting in a more than 50% surge in the gas prices in Europe. We know that the Strait of Hormuz has been closed. A couple of the cargo ships have been attacked in that region as well. So we're looking at a long-term increase in instability worldwide. If this continues, it also stops the oil and gas routes, and China is heavily dependent on the oil and gas that comes from this region. So it begs the question whether they would want to get involved to protect their own interests. Thankfully, South Africa from 2012 has reduced its reliance on Iranian oil. Up till then, we were reliant on Iranian oil for 60% of our energy sources. And fortunately, we've managed to diversify that, but we're still not immune to what is going on in that region.
Well, I'm going to ask you about South Africa next, right? But before that, the skeptics are saying, to your point about the deal set to be signed in Oman the very next day or something, that it is precisely because a deal was negotiated. That is why the Americans and the Israelis attacked, because they have a greater reason to wipe out the Iranians. Does that make any sense to you?
Well, the skeptics would be leaning in the right direction. I think less so from the American perspective rather than from the Israelis' perspective. And I've stated this on your program before. I believe that the Americans are state captured by the Israelis, and so upon their instruction, the Americans have gotten involved, especially with Trump, who managed his campaign for presidency on no wars and certainly no protracted wars. To be involved in something like this is really going against his entire campaign and his philosophy.
Okay, what about global reaction? Who has said what?
Most of the countries have said that there needs to be a return to the rule of law and that there needs to be respect for trying to bring stability to the region. I think that everyone is very concerned at this stage. There was an emergency UN Security Council meeting in which most of the parties called for restraint. But at this stage, and I think if we have watched anything that has happened in the multilateral sphere and at the United Nations, we can agree, Ashraf, that the UN has been toothless for more than 2 years, and the multinational system has completely collapsed. So it really comes down to whether or not anyone can talk sense to the parties that are embroiled in this war. The decapitation that the Americans had planned on went ahead, but it doesn't seem to have resulted in what they ideally wanted, which would have been a complete destabilization of Iran and then putting in one of their own proxies in place of the Ayatollah. Instead, what has happened is that Iran has systems in place to be able to elect new leadership and to still persist with their policies of what they are calling defense and their attacks into the Gulf region.
Could that still not happen, the regime change? And I see, huge prominence given to Reza Pahlavi, the son of the last Shah of Iran, right? Could that not still happen?
There's potential for that, but I think that it's not quite as easy as the Americans had anticipated. And I think that in the last 2 days, they've realized this, that it wouldn't be just an elimination of the upper echelons of the Iranians to simply replace them with Reza Pahlavi. There is a polarization within Iranian society, and for many of those who have been exiled from Iran, we saw celebrations at the killing of the Ayatollah. But within Iran itself, you saw an outpouring of love and grief at the assassination.
And this polarization you talk about, and I saw, of course, Iranians, I think that's in London, celebrating with Israelis, which ordinarily would be absolutely unheard of, right? Is that an example of how the Ayatollahs, in terms of leading a theocracy, have got certain aspects wrong, where they've alienated key components of Iranian society?
That does seem to be the case, but a lot of it also relates to how the economy has performed in Iran over the last few years. And so the protests that we saw in the last few weeks within Iran were more related to the economy. These that are outside of Iran are few in comparison to the masses that still support the regime.
Okay. What should South Africa do about it?
Well, we've seen the statement from the president calling for de-escalation, and I think that that's the best thing that we could do from a political perspective right now. I don't know if South Africa would have the appetite to try and negotiate with any of the parties at this stage, nor do I think we have the ear of the Americans or the Israelis, given our recent political history with them. I think at this stage, South Africa needs to consider how we are going to be affected from an economic perspective and try and put in those kind of stopgaps to be able to ensure that we aren't suffering further. We already have an economy that is really on the brink, and something like this of a global proportion would have an immense impact on us.
Okay. The Israeli leader, Netanyahu, and I think I've heard that correctly, where outside of fake news stories, because you get many of that too, saying something like the Iranians, and I'm paraphrasing, they ain't seen nothing yet. That means they will inflict a lot more damage to the type they've never seen ever. Your thoughts on that agenda, not just there, but even in the areas surrounding Iran?
Well, from a military perspective, this morning there was already additional delivery of more military ammunition to the Israelis, and so that does give an indication that they may utilize that and that this may expand even further. But I think that the American appetite is a little less than that. They've withdrawn some of their troops last night from the region after 3 or 4 casualties that were reported in Kuwait. And they're showing a little more restraint. I think they're under a little bit of more pressure from the Gulf states, who were their traditional allies. Some of the Gulf states are claiming that they feel the Americans have abandoned them in performing in this way. On top of that, we have an understanding that the Israelis have always been a nuclear power. They have been calling for this preemptive strike against Iran, claiming that Iran was developing nuclear weapons, but it doesn't appear that there was any truth to that. So it would be a one-sided nuclear arsenal from the Israelis against Iran.
Okay, we've got a minute to go, so I'll ask you 2 things in one go, right? The Iranian response in terms of attacking what I'd see military bases, American military bases around that region, on the one hand, and then also you mentioned Aramco and others like the Dubai airport and others, right? What are your thoughts about that strategy? And the last thing is the hashtag World War III has been trending for 3 days. Justified or not?
So the first thing that we need to recognize is that Iran claims that it has justification to attack these American bases that surround it and that are present in these Gulf states. The Gulf states have said that this is a violation of their territorial integrity and they reserve the right to respond. Up until this morning, most of that was targeted on the American bases, and it inflicted some significant damage on the radar systems, on the naval infrastructure in Bahrain, for example. It then began to expand to civilian infrastructure, including the airport in Kuwait, including some facilities in Dubai, and then this morning on Aramco and on Ras Laffan in Qatar, as well as on the Hamad International Airport in Qatar. So this means that it's expanding beyond just the American assets, and that creates a problem because the justification that Iran has held that they are responding only to American military assets then falls away, and it does potentially open the space for a response from Saudi Arabia, Qatar, or joint response from the GCC states.
Quick one, World War III, hashtag World War III.
There's certainly potential for it. As I said earlier, if China decides to come in and defend its economic interests, we are looking at a protracted, expanded war. It is worrying. If we look at Europe being affected in the last hour or so by a surge in the gas prices, they may want to respond.
Well, let's leave it at that because it's a big war indeed. Zinat Adam, thank you for your time from the Afro Middle East Center.
You can become a victim of a legal problem: wrongful arrest, assault, uncontested divorce, rental dispute, maintenance matters, or labor problems. It can happen to you. Clientele Legal provides tough professional lawyers for an affordable monthly premium. Our legal team is standing by to assist you 24 hours a day. Join today. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195. Clientele General is an authorized FSP and licensed non-life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
When music meets nature, something unforgettable happens. Symphony by the Water, a world-class live music experience set against the breathtaking beauty of Midmar Dam, featuring the KZN Philharmonic Orchestra, Spogazi, the Black Lapels, Saturday, the 7th of March, 2026. Day tickets from 150, evening tickets from 350. Tickets available at WebTicket and Pick n Pay. Symphony by the Waters, where sound flows.
Right, with Outsurance, saving on your car insurance feels like, well, hitting every green robot on your way to work. 35-year-old Zanai saves a whopping, listen to this, 1,180 rands on her 2017 Mercedes-Benz GLA. So get a quote now, and if Outsurance can't save you money, ask for 500 rands or 1,500 rands if you've been claim free and with the same insurer for 3 years. Get savings or cash. SMS OUCH to 30754. That's OUCH to 30754. Outsurance, licensed insurer, and FSP T's and C's and information online.
The National Pulse, weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
So, global drama. What about drama at home? The Madlanga Commission on the go. In fact, not on the go today. And I'll tell you what's happened. They revealed that he'll apply for a warrant of arrest against Brown Mogotsi should he not submit a satisfactory medical certificate. The key part is certificate, medical certificate, but satisfactory one is that. The reason is that Mogotsi failed to appear before the commission this morning due to being sick. It is all very, very much 11th hour, we understand. So let's understand what this means. Tebogo Gas is the chairperson of the Public Interest South Africa. Tebogo, it's been a while. Good to connect with you on the National Pulse.
Good afternoon, and same to you as well. It's been quite a while.
Thank you. Right. First of all, well, would you know, in terms of an update, has a medical certificate been provided?
As far, we haven't heard from the commission. Obviously, the said medical certificate will be handed over to evidence leader advocate Arthur Chaskoso, and the commissioners expect to have it by Wednesday. So far we haven't heard whether it was indeed delivered today. We'll only be able to know that, I would imagine, on Wednesday, when it was delivered as expected.
Now, I see in response to that, I mean, so, okay, they've obviously allowed the postponement, but the commission then had, through its spokesperson, had to make the point about not tolerating this type of, reasons, and I'm paraphrasing, right? That supposes that nothing has happened since then. Meaning, there has been cases before, right? Why would the assumption be made that in this case, Brown Mogotsi is wrong, but in other cases, that's okay?
It just become what seems to be a pattern. That's what the commissioners, I think, are frustrated by, because you would recall in the last instance when I think it was not witness F, one of the witnesses who was meant to appear, and then they actually reportedly fell ill, and the commission, especially Justice Matlanga himself, made it known that he notices that there seems to be a pattern where at the last minute, just as they were about to take evidence from or testimony from witness, there actually has been instances where such claims of ill health are made, and in circumstances where it raises suspicions that they may not be genuine in nature. You'd recall even witness F when the first postponement was made, and then suddenly his lawyer also had to go and attend to a medical issue, but not a conventional healthcare practitioner. It raises suspicion as to what is the bona fides of those who claim to be ill, especially just on the day they're supposed to go there. You would imagine that if Brown Hosi knew that he was unwell. Ordinarily, maybe it could have happened over the weekend. Maybe yesterday he would have sent a note or something to the evidence leaders, to the commission, and say, sorry, tomorrow doesn't look good. I'm not.
But look, I'm
coming down.
I'm trying to be as balanced as possible. I mean, yes, it's happened before. There's been a few people, as you've just given examples of, right? But if this was at work or this is at school or an exam, I mean, the assumption made is that the person is innocent until proven otherwise, right? Meaning that if Brahmachotsi is unable to provide a valid medical certificate that can check out, then we can say, well, he's taking a chance. But at this point in time, like at work, you don't know on the Sunday night how sick you're going to be, even if you're feeling slightly sickish, until Monday morning. So does he not have a point to say, let's see how it goes in the morning?
You're quite right. There should be a presumption of innocence before a sense of disbelief of the assertion is being made, and I think you're quite right in that regard. But I think the chairperson of the commission actually was caught in a moment where he can pick up that this doesn't seem right. That on the day that Brown Mohosu, whom we know has got a very checkered history insofar as being found economical with the truth, he must have let his guard down to say, look, we don't trust what this man has been telling us. How are we to trust what he's telling us today in circumstances where he knows that he ought to be coming to attest, to come and answer for the contradictions or the lies that he's been found to have said, especially before Parliament. And I think that is what maybe might have gotten the better of Justice Madlanga.
Lastly, I know sometimes we get confused between the Madlanga Commission and the ad hoc committee because they're running concurrently. There has been a sense, certainly from so many people as part of the National Pulse community listening to the show, that so many of these witnesses appear to be taking things for granted. I'm looking at the Paul O'Sullivan one. Yes, he may have said he's got to leave at a certain time, but when he finally gets up, he literally just walks out and see you, right? I got a flight to catch. Doesn't need permission. There is that sense that many of these witnesses literally feel they can do what they want. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, in fact, insofar as the parliamentary issue is concerned, how they manage the witnesses, I think, is quite different to how the Madlanga Commission did. They are very, from the get-go, they seem to be very combative against the witnesses. And because the political environment that's also prevailing, you will find that even common courtesy seems to take a back burner where they can be robust and not even just nail their colors on the wall from the get-go that I don't trust you or I don't believe what you're about to tell me before they even tell you. So, and I think it had gotten the better of Paul O'Sullivan to extent that when he felt that he had already warned them that he needed to leave at 1300, and the chairperson of the committee had already reminded them at 12:30 that he'll be leaving in 30 minutes. When he felt that there was a time for him to go, I think the frustration got the better of him. But it's not excusable in any way. But the fact of the matter is that the heat must be getting the better of this guy, of these people. I can imagine what it feels like to be in a witness box.
Well, bottom line, if the heat gets the better, it does suggest that those who feel the Madlanga Commission and the ad hoc are irrelevant. Well, maybe that is not the case, because clearly there's heat on them. Tebogo Gas, thanks for your time, chairperson of the Public Interest South Africa. Right, let's get the news. It's 4 o'clock. Here's on Dela Mbana.
Thank you, Ashraf. On the top stories, fuel price to increase on Wednesday, and arrested health department officials granted 10,000 rand bail each. For SFM News, I'm Ondalambana, and a very good afternoon. Motorists can expect to pay more at the fuel pump this month, with the price of diesel increasing by as much as 65 cents a litre from Wednesday. This comes amid rising geopolitical tensions in the Middle East. The Department of Mineral and Petroleum Resources has announced that the price of both grades of petrol is set to increase by 20 cents per litre. The price of diesel is expected to increase by between 62 and 65 cents per litre. The retail price of illuminating paraffin is set to increase by 58 cents and LP gas by 23 cents per kilogram. The department's Robert Mage.
The reason for this adjustment are the higher Brent crude oil prices on average due to tension between USA and Iran during the period under review. The average international product prices followed the increasing trend of the oil prices. The rand continued to strengthen against the US dollar and cushioned the fuel prices by close to 20 cents per litre. The slate levy remains unchanged at 0 cents per litre in the price structures of both petrol and diesel.
A legal opinion from Parliament's Legal Services Unit indicates that private investigator Phala Phala flouted both the rules of Parliament as well as the terms of reference of the ad hoc committee. Last week, O'Sullivan left committee members stunned when he walked out of the proceedings saying he was rushing to catch a flight. One of the Legal Services Unit advisors at Parliament, Telina Heli-Starkey.
In leaving the proceedings prematurely, Mr. O'Sullivan's actions may reasonably be construed as interfering with or impeding the committee in the execution of its mandate. Honourable members, the committee's terms of reference require it to assess the veracity of allegations advanced by various witnesses, including that of Mr. O'Sullivan, whose evidence was material, particularly in relation to allegations of political interference in police operations. His departure before completing his examination therefore hampered the committee's ability to discharge of its functions in terms of the terms of reference.
Search and rescue operations are continuing off the coast of Mossel Bay in the Western Cape following the sinking of the Taglio. The vessel went down early Sunday morning about 80 nautical miles south of Mossel Bay after sending PUT a Mayday distress call reporting uncontrolled water intake. 18 crew members were on board an abandoned ship in 4 life rafts. 13 have been accounted for. 5 people are missing. The Maritime Rescue Coordination Centre in Cape Town says merchant vessels, a local fishing vessel and a helicopter assisting in the search. 3 senior National Department of Health officials have been granted 10,000 rand bail each after appearing in the Specialized Commercial Crimes Court in Pretoria today. Malikole Mahlati, Phineas Paswa and Sabelo Buthelezi are accused of unlawfully awarding more than 1 million rand to a service provider in 2023 in violation of the Public Finance Management Act. Their case has been postponed to the 3rd of June. The 4th suspect, the service provider and her company, are yet to be arrested. Israel and the United States have continued to pummel Tehran for a 3rd day. Israel also attacked Lebanon after Hezbollah fired a limited number of rockets and drones. The BBC's Yolandi Nell reports that Israelis are supportive of the strikes against Iran.
I mean, what polls indicate is there is strong support for this war against Iran. And really, Israel has been preparing people for a prolonged conflict now as well that could last possibly for weeks. You have more than 100,000 reservists who have been called up. Really, I think the reason why there is strong support in Israel is that there is a perception that Iran has posed a real immediate threat to Israel. And it's something that people have been worried about really for some years now.
Recapping the top story, motorists can expect to pay more at the fuel pump this month, with the price of diesel increasing by as much as 65 cents a litre from Wednesday. I'm Undilambana for SFM News Headlines at 4:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N1 southbound in Beltvreden Park has a crash before 14th Avenue, and Eskom Pahleli Drive northbound in Pretoria has delays towards Moot Street. In KZN, there's a stationary vehicle on the N3 southbound at Cliffdale Interchange and an obstruction on the N2 southbound at Higginson Highway. In Cape Town, the N2 outbound slow moving towards Bunga Avenue and the N1 outbound slow moving on Plattekloof Hill. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
Stay safe on the roads. SAFM is with you.
It's all about meat-free meals on Color Your Plate this Sunday evening at 7. 4 contestants compete to prove that a midweek family meal can be hearty, nutritious, and full of flavor, even without the meat. With a staring from a previous season watching closely as guest judge, the stakes are high. Who will earn their approval and cook alongside them in the next round? Find out on Color Your Plate Sundays at 7 p.m. Repeat Saturdays at 4:30, only on SABC2.
Hi,
Hi, I'm Cindy Yankes. Watch me light up your screen only on SABC2 starting on the 23rd of February 2026. Catch Paradise Monday to Friday at 7 p.m. Live in every beat, the pulse of SA.
When music meets nature, something unforgettable happens. Symphony by the Water, a world-class live music experience set against the breathtaking beauty of Midmar Dam, featuring the KZN Philharmonic Orchestra, Spogazi, the Black Lapels, Saturday, the 7th of March, 2026. Day tickets from 150, evening tickets from 350. Tickets available at WebTicket and Pick and Pay. Symphony by the Waters, where sound flows.
In sports this hour, FIFA to introduce new rules for the World Cup. Fit again, developed human ready for 7th North American leg. And Chite shines in road debut, eyes Commonwealth track goals. More details at 4:30.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
Right, let's get reaction. This is the National Pulse. A lot of what we do is we talk to people, key decision makers, leaders in their spaces, analysts as well. And of course, we talk to you, right? And today there's no Madlanga Commission. There is no ad hoc committee. There's more time to talk to you. So reaction firstly on Brian Mokhotsi calling in sick, basically. So therefore, that's why he was not at the Madlanga Commission. Implications thereof. Then, of course, the call from the Zulu King to say drop Natal from KwaZulu Natal in terms of that name. And there are so many different aspects to come out of that based upon the conversations we've had. And then the chat with Zenith Adam we had regarding the goings-on in Iran and the surrounding areas, right? And the potential for it to become even much bigger. All of that you can comment by calling in live when we open the line. So save this number right away, 086 000 2032. If you're WhatsApping, voice or text 0614 104 107. You are tweeting. Many people are doing that. Tag SFM Radio. Tag me, Ashraf Garda. Use that hashtag The National Pulse. You can also post comments on our Facebook page. In fact, just about wherever we are, we've got you covered. So do that anyway. Right, now what about this? The stories continue, I can tell you, in terms of the drama of the day, right? So if I say the pulse is racing, well, it definitely is. Today, a number of undocumented foreigners were arrested during an inspection by the Department of Employment and Labour at two construction sites in Clayville in Ekurhuleni, right? In fact, it was a few days ago as well, just to get that right. You might have missed this, but a few weeks ago, there was a video trending of a guy on a construction site addressing President Ramaphosa about foreigners reporting for work while South Africans enjoying Valentine's Day. So, question is, what has been the motivation around this, and what were the implications of, the how many of these undocumented foreigners actually working at places, right? Jomo Sibiya is the Deputy Minister in the Department of Employment and Labour. Deputy Minister, appreciate your time. Thanks for joining us on the National Pulse.
Thank you very much, Ashraf. Good afternoon to you and good afternoon to the SAFM listeners.
Right. First things first, do I take it that this was a raid?
This was the Department of Employment and Labour working with SAPS and Home Affairs and the municipality of Ekurhuleni doing what's supposed to be done every day. It's the work that we do every day. We're making sure that the rule of law does prevail in our country. Those who don't want to comply with our laws in the Republic, they must feel that we are not just a banana republic, but we are a country of laws. So we're just implementing what we're supposed to be doing every day. The president gave us a mandate. He made last year, he pronounced that any employer in this country, when he was answering questions in Parliament and when he was delivering the State of the Nation address, he made it clear that any employer who continues to employ undocumented foreigners in this country must know that the law will be upon them. So we're doing exactly that.
Okay, so what then did you uncover?
we uncovered what we have seen for some years, for some months. The level of non-compliance in our country is high. Employers are disregarding our labor laws. Employers are disregarding our immigration laws. So we find that in the first site, we found about 30 undocumented immigrants who were working on that construction site. And the worst part of all, Ashraf, is that the company that is doing work there was using a fraudulent construction permit. That is supposed to be a permit that comes from our own department, and it was a fraudulent permit. And that means they are not even supposed to be constructing there. The extreme part of the things there is that the work that they are doing there, it's a social housing project for government. And they undermine the state to a level that the state gives them an opportunity to do work with the government, and they just decide that we are going to get this tender, but we are going to use a fraudulent permit. So it was just a day where we realized that you've got people who get serious business, but they want to continue undermine the state. Second site, we found that again, up 35 undocumented immigrants were working on that site. It's a construction site. We're targeting, not necessarily targeting, but we are prioritizing construction sector because, Ashraf, yourself, you've been talking about what happened in George, the collapse of George building, where we saw, again, undocumented immigrants dying, more than 35 of them. Chongati, Verelem, you've seen it just late last year, early this year. We've seen the collapse of construction of buildings that are being constructed. So we are upping our game in making sure that there is compliance in the construction sector and many other sectors.
So basically what you're saying is, an undocumented foreign national employed full-time by someone is wrong no matter what industry they're in. But if they are in an industry that requires the highest safety standards, there's even a double whammy on this one here because it compromises the safety part with no checks and balances, and that's completely unacceptable, yeah?
You said it all. One, there's this notion that says anybody who's having a passport can work in our country. Let me correct it. The law doesn't say that. Anybody who works in South Africa must come to South Africa with a visa that says he must work in South Africa. You can have a passport, but it doesn't allow you to work in South Africa. You must have a work permit in South Africa. But beyond that, anybody who must come into South Africa to work, coming from another country, you must be bringing a critical skill that we don't have, or we have limitations on those skills. So it doesn't mean that because you've got a passport, then you get a work permit, you must just work. You must be bringing a skill that we don't have. That's what the law says. We're not being xenophobic, or we're not discriminating to anyone, but we're implementing the laws of the Republic as they are. But as you have said, when it comes to occupational health and safety, it's the issue of safety of our workers and of anybody in the surroundings. If you bring somebody who doesn't even have what it takes to work in South Africa and works in a dangerous working environment, that person is putting all the workers around him in harm's way, putting everybody around that place, even the neighboring companies or neighboring people who are within that vicinity can be put in danger because some are working with explosive material, with chemicals and other things that they can be using. So we are trying to protect our country, we're protecting our people, but we're saying to employers, prioritize South Africans. Let's employ our people. We do have skills, and we have a high level of unemployment in our country. And we've got a huge number. Ashraf, one day I will just narrate to you one a sample that we did as the department, and in a quarter, how many undocumented foreigners we found in one quarter, and we only did a few number of companies, and it will just boggle your mind. So we are saying to employers in South Africa, let's prioritize South Africans. Let's make sure that we deal with the issue of unemployment and help our people to work and live a life that is in a standard all of us will say it's an acceptable standard. It's not only government responsibility, but private sector must work with us.
Well, I think the message now has been very clear for people listening in terms of what they may do or not do when considering hiring foreign nationals. But so two things: what happens then to these foreign nationals who were caught out, and what happens to the companies, the construction companies that hired them?
Good question. Let me start with a company that used a fraudulent permit. That one, we closed that site immediately. It was closed down. It's not working as we speak up until we deal and investigate what happened there. 2, if an employer is found to have employed an undocumented foreigner, that employer, one, the law says he must, it depends, it varies. In Gauteng, I know they are fined 10,000 per foreign immigrant that is undocumented. Meaning, if we find 100, you will have to pay 10,000 times 100 per undocumented foreign immigrant. And further to that, we institute a criminal case because it's criminal to employ an undocumented foreigner, and then we deport them. They are taken to police will open the case, dockets will be opened, and then they are processed, and then they have to be deported. That's the process,
Okay.
and that's what we.
Has there been a reaction? Has there been a reaction from these construction companies when obviously they were told as to the implications of the 10,000 rand fine and criminal charges being laid against them? How have they reacted?
I'm happy with the bargaining council, the construction industry bargaining council. They've came on board, Ashraf. They are working with us themselves. They are frowning on what some employers and some construction company owners are doing in the sector, because construction sector must be protected. That's why one day I said they should be jealous of the sector, because if we don't protect construction sector, Ashraf, we'll be having a situation where even the buildings that we construct, the infrastructure that we construct, will be at a level where, all of us will question what we are constructing in the country. We will have a situation where the workmanship is questioned and doesn't even last longer, because we want cheap labor, we want to use cheaper material, we want to maximize profit and exploit people. It's all about that, and we can't continue allowing that.
Well, there we are. A very important position taken in a very important conversation. We've just had Jomo Sibiya, the Deputy Minister, Department of Employment and Labour. Thank you for your time here on the National Pulse. Thank you so much. And I think from the audience listening in, there's a big takeout from activists, from foreign nationals who are undocumented, and for companies as well, who are construction companies who actually are hiring them, as you've just heard, like actually South Africa's really getting back to work when it comes to this sort of thing. Right, reaction on a range of issues. We'll do that after this.
SAFM supports a litter-free South Africa. Play your part in keeping our surroundings and environment clean. SAFM, leading the conversation. The National Pulse, weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
Right, let's get to the calls first, then the WhatsApp comments. First, we go to the Eastern Cape. Churchill, hello. Churchill, hi. Churchill, you there? In fact, okay, we'll get to the calls just now. Let's get to voice notes first up, right? In fact, there's comments around the cost implications of name changes, right?
Afternoon, Ashraf. It's Tyro here. Yeah, I hear the King Mrs. Zulu, his request. But now the question is, how much is that going to cost? How much is that going to cost? Thank you.
Thank you. Well, look, it's definitely going to cost money. We know that. But is that the only factor to consider? If money was the one issue, then we don't make any changes, right? I mean, isn't it? Or what? Right. Comment about Iran.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. This is Agmatibula. What had happened in Iran, it is so painful. Very painful indeed. I'm not someone who likes the politics from outside our continent or our country. But that one of Iran has touched me a lot. Because USA and Israel, they are playing big boys to each and every country, which is so painful to us. Good afternoon, this is Agmatibula.
And many are also saying, like, this the sense of, like, you will eliminate someone, like in a movie, I will eliminate you. No matter what, can that be possible in this world, in this time? And the person, in terms of the Ayatollah, to give it perspective, is, the majority of, first of all, is the leader of Iran, which is a theocracy, right? But then the majority of Muslims in the world, 90% belong to the Sunni arm of Islam. 10% approximately belongs to the Shia arm, and their leader almost has the role of, like, in many ways, like the Catholic Pope. So in fact, their spiritual leader, not just leader of the country, has been assassinated. Can you just imagine that in other faiths?
Good afternoon, Ashraf. This is Salim from Durban. If you look at Iran and if you look at the structures, see, Ayatollah is a religious leader. He's not a political leader. And if you remove and assassinate the religious leader, you see the political side is still continuing, because the political system of Iran is very decentralized. And I don't think so it will make any change by killing a religious leader. You see, Iranians are very, very loyal to the country. And end of the day, it's a big country with 90 million people. It's not a walkover. It's not a walkover. You can smash a few towns, but let me tell you, the resistance will be very strong.
Well, you may be right about the resistance. I just think you can't always say all Iranians are loyal. There are many Iranians in Iran who are pretty happy that the Ayatollah has been assassinated, and in terms of hoping for regime change. But I also take your point that there's a large number, perhaps the bigger majority, that in fact are supportive of them. Never mind what Trump may say, or Reza Pahlavi, right?
Afternoon, Ashraf. Anonymous from Mpumalanga. I can hear all the keyboard warriors chipping in with the issue of KwaZulu-Natal. I just wonder, the ground force, the people of KwaZulu-Natal, the ones who are on the ground, what is their view? The ones who cannot be able to send such voice notes, because in as much as we can chip in and with all our opinions, it all lies on the masses of KZN. And from what we know as a country about KZN, we saw in the elections what actually happened. So I wouldn't be surprised if they are for what the king has said, then it will happen. In as much as we can give all sorts of comments, if the ground forces at KwaZulu-Natal want it to happen, it will happen. Otherwise, yeah, thank you.
All right, so you're saying there's the constitution, there's the king, who, his comments are decreed, and it will have the impact of mobilizing the people of that region to the point where that change will happen somewhere down the line. Pumzile in Humansdorp, hello.
Hi, how are you, Ashraf?
I'm good indeed, right? What's your point?
Great, man. Ashraf, I want to support the view by His Majesty the King that honestly, where this thing of accommodating colonialists, and, it's very laughable. We should unapologetically go with name change. For instance, Ashraf, we've got provincial roads here where I stay in Kocha in the Eastern Cape. You've got Fort Tracker. You've got Gagama. It belongs to the province. We've got Sefri. It belongs to the province. We've got Dias or Dias, whatever, belonging to the municipality. Why can't government, particularly the department in charge of that, not being preemptive or proactive and come with a name change without us as members of the public to apply for that? I mean, it's high time we get rid of this.
But they have made changes. They've made changes of some places, and others they've kept them the same, right?
I agree.
I mean, otherwise they'd have a department of name changes every day. They can't do that either. I mean, think about it.
But as I'm saying to you, there's Fort Tracker Road in Humansdorp. It belongs to provincial government. There's the Gama Road in Jeffreys Bay, where there is high resistance for that road to be changed. There's St. Francis Road. Who's St. Francis? We don't know who he is or she is.
Our
province must take the initiative and change all of those names, as long as they are going to follow legislative procedures in consulting the public. That's all.
Okay, got that. I think, for many people, like, practicalities must come to the fore. So names that are out and out derogatory, I think, are no-nos. Absolutely. Others that are fairly neutral. I mean, we can't change every single name in the country. We'll be spending years and years doing that. Whereas the real change you want is meaningful change in the conditions of living. That doesn't mean I'm saying don't change anything. In fact, there's solid cases to change things, right? Yabinga in Kualanga. Go for it, Yabinga. Hi.
Hi, Ashraf.
Yeah.
Ashraf, I do support the issue of name change, when it's done fairly and so forth. But for KwaZulu-Natal, I don't think the king is correct, because at the time Vasco da Gama passed through those waters, there was nothing called the Zulu nation. It's only a creation of Shaka, only in the 1800s. But I'm not a historian, but I would love to hear maybe historians out there.
Okay.
Who can really come explain this to?
Okay, so you're saying it evolved over a time, and then they became what is called the Zulu nation. But it's possible early on they were not even called that.
And also there are Hlubis there. There are people who are Hlubis there who had a King Langalibale in KwaZulu-Natal, and all those things. The death of King Langalibale, most of the Hlubis have been assimilated into Zulus, but they are not Zulu.
Okay.
So it wouldn't be that whole process. So it can change. Then the name can change to reflect the people who stay in KwaZulu-Natal, but I don't think it would be correct to call it KwaZulu-Natal.
KwaZulu, right. Okay, Yabinga, thank you for that. George in East London. Hi, George.
Hi, Ashraf.
Yeah, go for it.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Yes, Ashraf, I don't want to agree or disagree with the change of name in KwaZulu-Natal, but what I'm saying is the government, in consultation with the king and other stakeholders, must look at which name to be changed, which is for significance, importance to the heritage or the history of this country. Then they must make that decision to say, we are changing this town, we're changing this road. Then they can look at all the benefits of doing it, and then I think that is the approach. Not someone calling from one corner of the country, and I want this place to be changed, and the other one calling from this corner of the country.
Yeah, okay, point taken, George. Thank you for that. Well, look, I would have thought that, these things get done at provincial and at municipal or local government level. That's where it is. That's where the motivation comes through, right? So, listen, the king's got the right to say what he wants. The question is what happens next around that, isn't it? There's lots more to talk about, and people commenting about, again, that issue of name change, but others suggesting that it perhaps suggests a greater ambition for that region, for the people, and therefore the king's pronouncements. You may want to read it completely differently. Then, in terms of Iran, seriously, what role should South Africa play? What can they do? And what are the solutions? You don't really want a war, do you? But we have a war, effectively, right? Let's get the news headlines. It's 4:30.
Thank you, Ashraf. On the news headlines, emergency services are responding to a building collapse in Omonde, south of Johannesburg. Several people have been trapped. Minister of Agriculture Johnston Hazen says the department has received 1.5 million vaccines from Turkey, which will help intensify the rollout of vaccinations for foot and mouth disease. And the United States Central Command has confirmed the death of a fourth U.S. service member in the ongoing strikes on Iran. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N3 northbound in Bedfordview, slow moving on the link to the N12 east at Gillilees interchange. And the N1 southbound has delays near Grasmere services. In KZN, the N2 southbound queuing towards Ananda Road, and there's a stationary vehicle on the N2 northbound after the N3 ramp. In Cape Town, Campground Road is slow moving through Newlands, and Main Road northbound slow moving between Cork Bay and Muizenberg. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tuming Khapele.
Right, Chimi, I mean, I went on the back of seeing a most fascinating World Cup, T20 World Cup last 8 game yesterday, and I know we had this conversation about who should be in the semis. We know India are there. Didn't want them there, but they're there. Having said that, you want to talk about another World Cup and the implications of the FIFA World Cup. Tumi, you there? No, maybe not. Okay, we'll connect with Tumi in just a second or two. We'll also get to Makwe Masilena in just a moment. Okay, we believe we have Tumi there now. Tumi, you there, right?
Yes, I am.
All right, so we're talking about the Cricket World Cup T20, but your eyes or your minds on the FIFA World Cup and possible changes there. Tell me about that.
Yes, FIFA is set to introduce new rules for the World Cup that is aimed at improving discipline, speeding up the game, and tackling racism. Now, players will no longer be allowed to cover their mouths when confronting opponents after alleged racist abuse directed at Vinicius Jr. Now, other new measures were approved by the International Football Association Board, including players who receive treatment having to stay off the field for at least 1 minute unless the injury was caused by a yellow or red card offense, 5-second counts for throw-ins and goal kicks, and VAR will now review second yellow cards and wrongly awarded corner kicks. Substituted players will have 10 seconds to leave the field. If they delay, their replacement will not be allowed to enter immediately. And IFAB will also test a rule that could temporarily reduce a team to 10 players if a goalkeeper is injured. There will also be a 2-year review into possible improvements to the VAR system. Remember, the global showpiece is set to take center stage from the 11th of June to the 19th of July, and the tournament will be broadcast live on SABC3, SABC Plus, and SABC radio stations, bringing viewers great coverage of the world's biggest football spectacle. In terms of rugby, Springbok Sevens playmaker Devalt Human says that he's fully fit and eager to contribute again after a lengthy spell on the sidelines. The 30-year-old has not featured since the Singapore tournament last season due to injury, but returns as the HSBC 7 series moves into the North American swing. Now, the Blitzboks will compete in back-to-back tournaments in Vancouver on the 7th to the 8th of March and Los Angeles on the 14th to the 15th of March. And Human admits the excitement feels similar to when he first broke into the system back in 2017.
To join the team again, and I think of experience who's coming in. I think that side of the world is not very my favorite place, but I think Canada and USA is going to be excited, and hopefully we can bring some trophies back because it's the end of the regular season.
In terms of cricket, South Africa head into Wednesday's T20 semi-final against New Zealand at Eden Gardens as the tournament's only unbeaten side. But coach Shukri Conrad has warned against with India facing England in the other semi-final. Aidan Markram's men are embracing the favourites tag as they chase their first ever T20 World Cup crown. Here's Coach Conrad.
Obviously, the guys are richer for that experience. They'd have learned so much about themselves. And Aidan has been fantastic, both with bat in hand, as you mentioned, and as a leader as well as a captain. But you're only as good as your troops, and he'd be the first one to admit that. So it's easy to captain a bowling unit that's on top of their game and batters that are firing. But Aidan, he's been at the forefront of all of everything that we do. I think our experience in the last T20 World Cup will stand us in good stead. And again, when you keep making semi-finals and finals, and I've said this many a time previously, if you continually make semi-finals and finals, eventually you're going to win one.
Well, anything's off with athletics. Fresh from a record-breaking European indoor season, Tsepo Chite proved that he's more than just a track specialist with a stunning debut at the Absa Run Your City Gqeberha 10-kilometer. The 29-year-old clocked 28 minutes 9 seconds to claim third place. Few expected Chite to podium against seasoned road runners, but his resilience earned respect at the finish line. And while delighted with his performance, Chite stressed his focus remains on the track as he builds towards the Commonwealth Games in Glasgow later this year. I'll have more on other sports in the next hour.
This February, love the shows that keep you guessing. Every case tells a story. Every clue brings you closer to the truth. From shocking twists to unforgettable investigations, Homicide returns with seasons 3 and 4, where justice is hard-won and nothing is ever simple. Because loving what you watch sometimes means leaning into the darkness. Homicide seasons 3 and 4, weekdays at 12 p.m. only on S3. Open up. S3.
The safety and well-being of learners is a shared social responsibility. Parents and guardians play a critical role in ensuring safe, reliable, and lawful scholar transport. Parents are therefore urged to take responsibility for the following. Learners should be encouraged to report unsafe driving, overcrowding, or any dangerous practices both before and during the journey. Promoting safe boarding, respectful conduct, and responsible behavior during the journey is a collective duty that begins at home. By working together, parents, operators, and authorities can protect learners and build a culture of safety on our roads. Issued by the National Department of Transport.
Now, you know that SAFM have been partnering or are partnering with Symphony by the Water. And that event takes place on the 7th of March at Midmar. So it's like imminent, a few days from now, right? Now, part of that is a giveaway, 15 double tickets for you to see an incredible lineup of South African artists supported by the KZN Philharmonic Orchestra. To win tickets, send a WhatsApp voice note to, listen to this one, 061 410 4107, and then tell us which artists will be performing on the day, and then sing a line from one of their songs. You got that? Message your favorite artist, what they'll be singing, and sing along. Winners must be based in KZN and must be able to get themselves to the venue. Terms and conditions apply.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
Right, Makwe Masilela is with Makwe Fund Managers. You've got news local and global. But firstly, RCL Foods, their interims, and I would think that terms and conditions apply there as well.
Definitely. Remember, they unbundled Rainbow Chicken in July 2024 afternoon to the listeners, and their overall financial performance as EBITDA was down 14%, and that was due to the adverse market dynamics within the sugar industry. Groceries benefited from higher volumes in pet food and also favorable product mix when it comes to beverages, but the baking business saw volume declines across the bread, buns, and rolls, but the pies performed well. Revenue down 1.9%, profits as headline earnings per share down 30%. Ashraf, the unfolding of the Iranian crisis comes at a time when global markets are nursing concerns that is over the AI-related disruptions, sticky inflation, and strong job markets, which means interest rates may remain unchanged for longer, and also heightened uncertainty over tariffs. This geopolitical shock triggered what we call a classic risk-off move that is across the markets, with equities going down, crude oil surging, reinforcing demand for the yellow metal as a store of value. Rate cuts, Ashraf, expectations are also reduced, and locally we saw manufacturing sentiments for January falling to 47.4% from 48.7%. The decline reversed part of the prior month's sharp gains because of declining business activity, and also we've seen employment declining. The widening US-Iran conflict is disrupting oil flows, that is to several Asian countries, as vessels are bottled up within the Middle East Gulf, and crude and transport costs are rising. And reports are that Iran is now blocking the Strait of Hormuz, a key shipping channel for the oil industry, with roughly 20% of the world's oil and LNG consumption passing through the waterway. Trying to offer a buffer, yesterday we saw OPEC agreeing to high production by at least 206,000 barrels per day. Ashraf, insurance companies are cancelling what they call all risk coverage for vessels in the Gulf. Brent crude is up 8% now at $79 a barrel. Investors are rushing into the safe haven of the yellow metal, and we see gold is up 1.8% at 5,367. Platinum is down 2% at 2,317. And as expected, global stocks are tumbling, but our gold are limiting the blow when it comes to the local bourse, which is now down only 0.8%, but the rand fell 1.5% against the US dollar, 16.15, 21.65 against the pound, and 18.91 against the euro.
All right, perfect. Thanks for that, Mark Quinn. A reminder, we've got an hour of the markets with Jimmy Moyaha from 6 to 7 this evening.
The safety and well-being of learners is a shared social responsibility. Parents and guardians play a critical role in ensuring safe, reliable, and lawful scholar transport. Parents are therefore urged to take responsibility for the following. Parents should ensure that learners are on time and ready for collection to prevent unsafe driving practices such as rushing, unscheduled stops, or overloading. By working together, parents, operators, and authorities can protect learners and build a culture of safety on our roads. Issued by the National Department of Transport.
It's all about meat-free meals on Color Your Plate this Sunday evening at 7. 4 contestants compete to prove that a midweek family meal can be hearty, nutritious, and full of flavor, even without the meat. With a staring from a previous season watching closely as guest judge, the stakes are high. Who will earn their approval and cook alongside them in the next round? Find out on Color Your Plate Sundays at 7 p.m. Repeat Saturdays at 4:30, only on SABC2.
The National Pulse, weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
Okay, tell you what, there's a day where you've got like 5 big stories and we have to pick and choose which ones. How's this one here? The acting police minister, Feroz Kachalia, has confirmed that the Independent Police Investigative Directorate, IPID, has now, and this is the key, has declassified its report into the Phala Phala farm robbery. So what does this mean? And let's talk about that to the African Transformation Movement, the ATM, because that's the party that laid the complaint with the investigating directorate in the first place. Zama Nchona, the ATM national spokesperson, with us. Zama, appreciate your time. Thanks for joining us on the National Pulse.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon to you and the listeners.
Thank you. You know, sometimes it's not just about saying it's been declassified. I would think you would have to study the detail of what has been confirmed. So what does the detail tell you and what's your understanding of it?
Thank you so much. Well, as the African Transformation Movement is still studying the report, but there are a few things that we would like to put on record. One, we deem it unnecessary that it was classified to start with. We believe that it has become a trend that the political principals would issue a directive, and the men in blue who are supposed to be protectors and defenders of the law will carry out even unlawful instructions. There are glaring and clear revelations on the Phala Phala matter, which was not reported, where state machinery was used to pursue what was flagged as a private investigation using state machinery. Truly, this is unbecoming. This is why, as the African Transformation Movement, we believe that the very first thing to talk about here is the issue of the classification was wrong. That's number one. Number two, the issue that we need to also look into is the issue of the delays. Numerous letters and calls were made for this matter to be declassified. And one wonders, why now? What is the ultimate objective? Is the report intact? Is it in its initial form, or it has been dealt with in a way that is going to say to South Africans, we have actually ticked a box, but it does not speak to the fundamentals? Those are the things we're looking for in this report as the ATM.
Well, when you say the why now, I mean, do you think there's a motive behind the why now?
Very interesting. Timing is everything. Time and space in politics is everything. And also, we can't run away from what is currently taking place in the Madlanga Commission and also in the Parliamentary inquiry. It could be playing a a role in this. This is where the rot within SAPS is being exposed. The collusion of the collision between politicians and men in blue is being exposed. So it bears a question on the issue of the timing. Is it related to the matter of the rot that is being uncovered? These are about some of the questions. And also externally or beyond that, what is the political climate in the country? Who's calling the shots? Where is the balance of forces? These are some of the questions that you're beginning to ask as we are moving forward on the ulterior motive that may be there and pushing the declassification.
You also touched on that the documents may be doctored. I mean, that's a pretty damning statement to make. You have reason to believe that?
You know, after the revelations we have seen in the Madlanga Commission and otherwise, you can't not be skeptical as an ordinary citizen of the Republic of South Africa. These days, we don't just ask once. We want to excavate and get to the bottom of everything, because we have seen that there is undue influence of politicians and business people on state machinery. So because of what is in the public eye right now, you can't not actually raise those questions, because it has been clear to us that the non-action that we thought was due to incapacitation of these the state machinery or the security agencies was not actually that. It was intentional, because there were ulterior motives, or motives better known to the players closest to the nucleus of every hatched plan, that were actually driving towards a particular ideal, and not the one that we had actually set them up, or actually as South Africans sent them to actually achieve.
Okay. Now, I'm just quoting the acting police minister, Feroz Kachalia, and he's saying, access to the report will only be granted through the appropriate legal processes. This implies that any person, whether natural or juristic, seeking access to the investigation report must submit an application to the Information Officer in terms of the Promotion of Access to Information Act. You concur with that? Meaning it's not just available to the public. You actually have to submit an actual application for it.
Though we do not mind adhering to some rules and regulations, but this is a cloud that must be removed over the president and all state institutions that are state institutions that are looking into the matter. It is of public interest to know, did the president actually issue a directive for the security agencies of the country to actually break the law intentionally? That matter must not be of people with a particular jurisdiction. If we say everybody must be equal in front of the law, then we believe that it is a matter of national and international interest, that it must not only be limited to that. Having said that, we will, as the complainant in the matter, be embarking on that process. And once we get it, I'm almost, even though I have not consulted on the matter, we will make it public.
So you as a party will make it public anyway?
Anyway.
Never mind what the minister says, that there's issues around the POPIA Act that prevents it. That's why some of the information will be redacted in terms of witnesses. They have the names blocked out, as we've seen with the Epstein files.
On matters pertaining to breaking the law, on matters pertaining to individuals who have colluded with the powers that be to defeat the ends of justice, it is important that the public must know. Yes, if they say there are people's ID numbers, we're not interested in ID numbers. We're interested in people who have broken the law. On that front, we would have to look into it. Obviously, the legal team of the African Transformation Movement would advise on this matter, but on a personal basis, any individual who is implicated by that must actually face the full might of the law. And in order for that to happen, those people must be revealed, unmark everyone who's there.
Okay, lots to reflect on that. Zama Nshona, the ATM national spokesperson. This in response to news by the acting police minister, Firoz Kachalia, that this long-awaited report into the Phala Phala farm robbery, which has been classified, so not available for public consumption, now is available. It's been declassified, but to do so, you need to actually apply. So it's not like you can go to the local corner shop and find it. But either way, if you really want it, it's available. Yeah, implications, we'll see, right? Well, I'll tell you what, there's implications around KwaZulu. And I've left out the word Natal. We'll find out what the MK party thinks about that in a moment.
The Morning Brief.
Talk to us and let us know about your husband. Who is he, his full name, and what kind of a person he was?
My husband is Mr. Johannes Jacobus Kutsie. He was a very kind, hard-working person. He loved his kids no matter what. Like I say, we are separated, but we are not divorced. And his kids was his everything, especially for the little one. She's taking it very hard.
Maritza Kutsie is the spouse of one of the trapped miners.
Tulasizwe Simelane on SAFM. Find the podcast at safm.co.za. Ashraf Garda on the National Pulse.
And I'm sure there'll be more on that building collapse in, Robert Shem in Joburg. Oh, my goodness, man. Yeah, we'll get that in the news coming up at 5, right? In the meantime, and also we'll talk about the Consumer Credit Index data, which I think is very, very important too, right? Let's go back to the issue of KwaZulu or KwaZulu-Natal. Now, earlier on, we chatted about this regarding the pronouncements by the Amazulu king, Misuzulu KwaZulu-Natal, and his move to say that Natal must be dropped from KwaZulu-Natal. Right, we've had lots of reaction, and we'll play many of that later on as well too. But let's get the thoughts of the MK party and their position. Willis Mkono is with me, the convener in KwaZulu-Natal. Appreciate your time, and thanks for joining us. So would you support that KwaZulu and not Natal?
Ashraf, let me say what I've said before. First and foremost, good afternoon to you and the listeners. I'm sorry that my voice is not very audible, but I'll try my best.
I can hear you pretty clearly, so go ahead, Willis.
Yeah, I have some flu. It's change of season, so some of us are going to undergo that.
No problem.
But what I said,
right? Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, ever since that matter has been raised, my comments in respect of the King's tabling of all matters that he has tabled before the legislature was that the good thing is that he has now made it an official statement to the legislature that forces the legislature now and all parties involved in the legislature to discuss the matter. That is how MK is also going to treat it. All pronouncements by His Majesty that were made at the opening of the legislature will be tabled for discussion at the provincial detachment. It is only then that we will make recommendations to the national leadership in accordance with our views on the matter. But before that discussion has taken place, it would be out of order for any of us in the MK to say that this is the position, it's a yes or no. That would be out of order because the matter has not been discussed, and it is a high policy matter which all of us must engage with. But the good thing is that it's now in the legislative processes, and that is what we are going to respect.
All right, so
some of the matters,
Carry on.
Some of the matters that he has raised also need national legislation. For instance, the issue of Ingonyama Trust and ownership of land and the king's and the amendment thereof that need change of the constitution and legislation. Therefore, it's all matters that we will apply our minds on and then get to discuss.
Okay, so I hear you at this point in time. No position from the MK party, but will be discussed. But the fact that it's been put to the legislature, there has to be a response now. So it's not just talk in the corner. Yeah. All right.
So certainly.
Thank you. Let's leave it at that and get well soon. Willis Mkhunu, the MK party convener in KwaZulu-Natal. So they'll look at it at the right time, I would think, right? What about you? Let's look at what you have to say at the right time. We'll talk about credit risk with the head of credit risk at TransUnion. This is in light of the budget speech with we'll chat to Fatri Adams coming up after 5. But for now, there's an opportunity for me to talk to you. So let's pick out some of the WhatsApp comments, and there are many WhatsApp comments that, in fact, we've got. In fact, what we'll get the WhatsApp comments on this, and many of them still sticking on two big themes: KZN and Iran.
Hi, Ashraf, Bran Mukhotsi and Polo Lesevan. They disrespect our constitution. If they have been subpoenaed to a respective ad hoc or commission, they must comply. They must send a certificate of ill or something else to show that they can't be available. So someone just walk out of ad hoc committee and then the other one is not available. He didn't make himself present. This means that there must be issued an arrest warrant to do so.
Got
Thank
that.
Ashraf.
Thank you for that. Here's another.
Afternoon, Mr. Ashraf. Bongo Sondi. Mr. Ashraf, if Brian Mukhotsi is sick in the morning, then he sends a message to the commission that he is sick and then tells them that like he will get a sick note during the day, which means he hasn't gone to the doctor yet. He will go like during the day. So how does he know like the doctor will grant him like will book him off sick or grant him like days off? Because it depends on how serious sick you are. Something is fishy here. No, they must investigate that sick note. Because how did he know that he will get a sick note or the doctor will book him off? He's too serious.
No, I think the sick note will imply that he went to visit a doctor who will then say he visited me today, and then maybe give a sense of what it is. If he then says that I've checked out the patient and the patient has a cold, then you must know that the Madlanka Commission will be furious. If he says there's something a lot more dramatic, then they may just, accede to his request. Let's see if we can play another comment, which I will do. And there's a lot around the king. Yeah.
Good afternoon, Ashraf, and the crew there and the listeners. It's Robert from KZN Motu. Ashraf, this topic of the king changing name of KZN, I just asked myself one question. Why do these people in high positions want to waste money on unnecessary nonsense? Couldn't that money be used to help the poor in KZN rather? Who is going to die or go to jail if the name doesn't change? What is going to benefit the people by changing the name and using so much money instead of using the money on the people that are struggling? These people of the past floods, they still don't have accommodation. They're still struggling there. This is really ridiculous. Thanks.
So you're saying basically it's bottom of the priority list, or certainly not at the top. There are other priorities which the province of KZN or KZN has to give more prominence or priority to, right? 5 o'clock, here's Greg Coast with the news.
Six people killed in Joburg building collapse, and another US service member dies in strikes on Iran. Good day to you. 6 people have died and 1 person is known to still be trapped under the rubble following a building collapse in Omonde, south of Johannesburg. 3 people were pulled from the rubble with serious injuries. The incident occurred at the Amethyst Business Park earlier this afternoon. Agriculture Minister John Steenhuisen says the department has received 1.5 million vaccines from Turkey, which will help intensify the rollout of vaccinations for foot and mouth disease. This comes after the arrival of 1 million doses from Argentina. Steenhuisen and the Free State Agriculture MEC engaged with various farming stakeholders outside Bloemfontein on the nationwide mass vaccination rollout campaign against foot and mouth disease. Steenhuisen says he's confident that 80% of the national herd will be vaccinated by the end of this year. The former National Director of Public Prosecutions, Bulelani Ngcuka, has told the TRC inquiry in Johannesburg that he was never subjected to political interference with regards to TRC cases during his tenure. He held office from 1998 to 2004. He was Democratic South Africa's first NPA head and says he was committed to taking forward the investigation and prosecution of TRC cases due to his own history. He spent 8 months in solitary confinement and jailed for 3 years in 1982 for refusing to give evidence in the case of another comrade. He says even if there was an attempt to interfere with his work, he would have resisted that.
This thing about political interference, it would happen if you allow it. If you allow it as national director, then of course there will be. But at the end of the day, what I've been saying is the decision is yours and yours alone. And you tell people, no, this is not how this is going to work. I mean, I can give you a number of examples about a number of other cases where people have tried to persuade me not to take action, sending lawyers, advocates, making
would those be
representations.
non-TRC related cases?
Yes. But I was able to rebuff all those attempts and say no. So it never happened during my time. If it had happened, I would have been able to say no, sorry, it's not going to happen.
The Muslim Judicial Council's called for an independent and transparent international inquiry into the assassination of Iran's supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. In a statement, the council condemned what it described as a targeted strike and warned that such an act would raise serious concerns under international law. It says the killing of a foreign head of state outside the context of armed conflict would constitute a violation of the UN Charter. It's also urged the UN Security Council and other international bodies to ensure that accountability mechanisms are not politicized and that disputes are resolved through peaceful means to prevent further regional escalation. The U.S. Central Command has confirmed the death of a 4th U.S. service member in the ongoing strikes on Iran. The statement says the latest death came after the member was wounded during Iran's initial attacks. Sherwin Bryce Peace reports.
The confirmation of another U.S. death comes after President Donald Trump said Sunday that there were likely to be more American military members killed while vowing to avenge the fallen. CENTCOM also indicated that 3 U.S. F-15E jets went down over Kuwait due to an apparent friendly fire incident when Kuwaiti air defenses were activated, but that all 6 aircrew ejected safely. The U.S. Congress is expected to start debate this week on the U.S. attack alongside Israel against Iran, with a bipartisan group of lawmakers seeking to assert Congress's war powers in an effort to restrain the president's unilateral actions in Iran. Sherwin Brycebees, SABC News, New York.
Well, the top story is that 6 people have now died and 1 person is known to still be trapped under the rubble following a building collapse in Omonde, south of Johannesburg. That's SAFM News. I'm Greg Coase.
In sports, the SAWA Standard Bank sponsorship brings huge relief for SAFA and Proteas gearing up for semis test against New Zealand. More details at 5:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, Grayston Drive eastbound in Sandton has a crash at the M1 highway. On the N3 southbound in Spruitview, a crash after Heidelberg Road, and on the N3 northbound, a crash before Buccleuch interchange. In KZN, on the N11 in Newcastle, a fatal crash reported near Drakensberg Drive. Then there's poor visibility on the N3 southbound at Sadara Road ramp. You're asked to expect lane closures. In Cape Town, on the N2 M3 outbound, there's a crash on the ramp to the M3 southbound at Hospital Bend. The R44 northbound has heavy traffic entering the central Stellenbosch area, and Marine Drive northbound has heavy traffic between Milnerton and Tableview. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
Stay safe on the roads. SFM is with you. The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
Have you been taking a look at the Galaxy S26 series? Yes, no, either way. We're going to talk about it in a few minutes' time, so looking forward to that. There's also this TransUnion Consumer Index that I think is really important to you on the back of the budget and how you plan your year. That comes up shortly. In the meantime, let's get your thoughts. Here we are.
Good morning. Good afternoon, Ashraf. The announcement that the Phala Phala IP report has been declassified. I mean, on the 2nd of February, that's like a month ago. Why hasn't it been made public? Why is the media not passionate about the Phala Phala issue like it was with Nkandla? Why there's no call for the report to be made public and for Ramaphosa to be held accountable? You know, the media in South Africa, I think we have a big problem. It means in deep blue.
Well, if you heard correctly what we said in the earlier conversation, in fact, it's not available to the public, as in like putting it in the newspapers. It's not available like that. You, however, as a member of the public, can apply. And based upon your application, then you'll receive it. Then you will. So you're not banned from it, but it's not available widespread in the public domain just like that. That's the reason why.
Good afternoon, Ashraf, and the crew there and the listeners. It's Robert from KZN Motu. Ashraf, this topic of the king.
Gore, you know this issue of say KwaZulu-Natal must drop the Natal to remain KwaZulu only. During negotiation for the new government, people were told not to identify themselves as ethnic groupings. And the Zulus were allowed. They were the only ones. Transkei, Ciskei, you know, Bophuthatswana as a province could be northwest. It could be Bophuthatswana back again. Venda, we've got a province, a district that called Wembe. We could have called it Venda, but we were told not to identify ourselves because there are so many other groups who are staying there as well around, you know, mixing. But for the sake of unity, we did that. Now Zulu want to identify themselves. You know, they want to prove superiority, and everyone else will want to break away. You know, Free State will be Botswana, you see, and they are part of Lesotho. They call themselves Lesotho. No, this thing of saying once the king has spoken, we can't. No, those things are dead with the Shaka Zulu dictatorship and autocratic leaders. We can't say traditional leaders were like, God bless. No.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. This is Tabson Blofadin. I don't support that suggestion of renaming KZN KwaZulu. Imagine if every tribe in this country will name a province by the ethnic group that is found there. Imagine us in the Free State. We call Basotho land. And mind you, there are people from Lesotho that want to call Free State Basotho land. So what will happen to this country? This is not necessary at all.
Okay, listen, there are for and against on that issue, right? And we will pick up further comments from you. So if you're up for it, particularly first-time callers, hey, welcome to the show if you're a first-time caller, and you must tell me that when you get on live, 086 000 2032. Also, let me tell you that all the big conversations we have every single day, they're put up as a podcast. So go to the website, safm.co.za. Then under the National Pulse, under podcast and the National Pulse, you'll find all of them. And then you can listen to it at your leisure or re-listen to it and then share it amongst your networks. It'd be great if you did just that. Right, let's talk about TransUnion and credit risks and the index that's so important to you after this.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda.
Right, so I tell you what, we've had the budget speech. Now, TransUnion have released their consumer price index showing that household credit health remains in recovery, with policy developments likely to be reinforcing this trend. Let's try and understand what that means, certainly to you and I, right? With me is Fatki Adams, the head of credit risk at TransUnion. Fatki, I appreciate your time. You're live on the National Pulse.
Thanks for having me, Ashraf. Good afternoon to your listeners.
Good afternoon. Firstly, I mean, why the need for this consumer credit index?
No, that's a good question. So the Consumer Credit Index is a measure of how the consumers, you and I, are coping in terms of our credit health with all of the changes in the macro and micro factors, looking at the households and how everyday people are able to service their debt. And their access to credit is critical because a lot of the growth within our economy comes from credit-backed financing. So it's important for us as TransUnion and as an economy to measure how everyday individuals are managing to cope with the installments on their credit products.
All right, and therefore, I mean, it is directed to consumers, right? To what degree do they dip into their own credit risks and their own profiles, and then take the advice that you give them in terms of managing themselves throughout the year?
So I wouldn't say it's just for consumers. A large portion of it refers to SMEs and commercial entities as well. But as far as consumers go, we find that a large portion of consumers are becoming more accustomed to and seeing the benefit of tracking their credit health in the form of their consumer credit report, which we obviously make available to them. These reports allow them to identify if there are any issues on their credit report. It's really a view of their financial standings, right? It gives them an indication of whether they are credit worthy, the likelihood of them actually being approved for credit, and it also allows them to plan their financial future significantly better. We always tell consumers that you shouldn't only be looking at your credit report when you're looking to apply for credit, but it's something that you should constantly be monitoring to ensure that your financial future is fit and that in the future you have access easily because you're aware of how your financial standing looks from a credit perspective.
Okay, that makes sense. Give us an overview, therefore, in terms of, in broad strokes, what comes out of this report?
Well, it gives you an indication of any of your outstanding, I wouldn't say outstanding debts, but any of your active credit lines. So this is things like your retail credit accounts, your bond, your vehicle finance, or any credit cards that you've got. It gives you an indication on your outstanding balances and whether or not you've been maintaining those payments religiously. One of the probably the biggest benefits, and what we see a lot of consumers now also using it for, is to ensure that there's no fraud happening on the profile. Because what we find is a lot of bad actors would assume the identity of Ashraf and go around and apply for credit, right? This not only is a bad thing for you because it impacts your credit score, but if those bad actors are successful in actually getting credit, it's something that will be against your name, and obviously they have no intention of paying it, which then tarnishes your credit standing in your credit report. So it has a dual purpose, ensuring that you are not being fraud. No one's doing any fraud on your name, as well as understanding your worthiness of credit for when you need to apply for things like a bond or vehicle finance. And interesting enough, one of the lesser known facts is a lot of times when you apply for a job, your future employer might even look at your credit report to understand how you manage your finances. So it's definitely something important to keep an eye on.
I see your CEO, Lee Nike, of course, saying, and I'm quoting him, saying what's encouraging is the alignment between improving credit behavior and a budget that reinforces fiscal discipline and income support. How do you see that as an alignment? Because often, the minister says one thing, the public appear disconnected. How would you deduce that there is an actual alignment?
Well, I definitely agree with the statement. If we look at our CCI report, which was launched in line with when the budget speech was, we see that the CCI report shows that there's been a bit of a decline in the recovery of consumers. There's still improvement, but that momentum that we've been seeing year on year of improvement has almost plateaued. We saw quarter-on-quarter increases of the measure of CCI, which measures if there's kind of break even, or which is 50. Anything above 50 shows positive momentum. So we've seen it drop down to 52 from a previous quarter reading of 56, which means there's still improvement. But how that aligns to the budget speech is a lot of the budget speech spoke about relief for consumers. That's you and me. They spoke about not introducing the tax because of the 20 billion relief that we saw. It also speaks about the focus on stability in the interest rate, which means that consumers would have a lot more disposable income now. There was also talk about the adjustment of the income tax bracket. So all of these are leading indicators for some relief to the end consumer, which means they'll be able to service their debt significantly better. Because one of the other findings that came out of the CCI report is an increase in 3-month default on credit products. Now, this typically indicates distress for consumers, but with all of these factors that were spoken about in the budget speech, I think that will really alleviate some of the pressures and stresses that households are experiencing, and we might even see a significant increase, or at least some increase, in household income.
And I mean, therefore, lastly, in terms of your own report, I mean, what do you make about this daily tension or annual tension that, households have in the need to spend their money, earn the income, spend money, try and improve their the household, and then maybe have holidays and other trips and other fancy things, and trying to get that balance right. Are there key trends you can pick up in terms of just that, disposable income and expenditure without risking, negative credit?
Well, we actually find that there's an increase in consumers cutting down on discretionary spending and actually saving a lot more. And that's actually another factor that is aligned to the budget speech. We saw that the budget speech promotes stronger saving culture through the higher TFSA limit, as well as RA reforms, which is really encouraging households to build financial buffers. And that sentiment comes through in our CCI as well, where we find that consumers are putting away for the future to ensure that they don't hit bumps. I think a lot of lessons were learned over COVID when there was significant impact and people had to tap into savings. I think we've learned that we need to have a buffer in the event of any kind of event similar to that. And that's coming through both in the CCI and definitely reinforced with the budget speech that we just experienced.
We hear the converse where people's like, what buffer? We just absolutely can't even survive to make R1 more in terms of income above expense, right? Having said that, as we conclude, Fatki, is there any final points based upon your own experience about putting this report together that you'd like to share with us?
Yeah, I think just a few, right? And I'll keep it short. So I think financial pressure is still extremely real, right? But the budget takes some of that weight off your monthly budgets by all of these things that they've put into effect. I think loan repayments may be slightly easier as the inflation stabilizes and the interest rate cuts become more likely in 2026. So I think definitely look out for that. Saving becomes more rewarding, and helping households build the buffer the CCI shows is so badly needed by individuals. So I think just looking at the overlaps between the CCI and the budget speech, I think we're definitely moving in the right direction. There's definitely lots of savings and relief for consumers, and I think it was overall a good budget speech.
Okay, and that's where we shall leave it. Fatki Adams, Head of Credit Risk at TransUnion. Hopefully you've had your pen and paper at your side and made some notes on that. It's very, very important. And talking about consumer savings, what about spending? Samsung has got something you may want to buy. We'll talk about that next.
Yo, it's Sashali Kelly. Join us for stories that will make you live in every beat. The Pulse of SA, starting 23 February 2026, Monday to Friday at 7 p.m. on SABC2.
This February, fall in love with the shows that bring us together on Saturday nights. First, sparks, surprises, and second chances at romance. Farmer Wants a Wife US, where real love grows in the most unexpected places. Saturday at 8:30 p.m. And before the love story begins, the stage lights up with pure talent and big league dreams. America's Got Talent Fantasy League. The world's best acts battling for the ultimate bragging rights. Saturday at 7:30 p.m. 2 shows, one unforgettable Saturday. Only on S3. Open up.
When music meets nature, something unforgettable happens. Symphony by the Water, a world-class live music experience set against the breathtaking beauty of Midmar Dam, featuring the KZN Philharmonic Orchestra, Spogazi, the Black Lapels, Saturday, the 7th of March, 2026. Day tickets from 150, evening tickets from 350. Tickets available at WebTicket and Pick n Pay. Symphony by the Waters, where sound flows. The National Pulse, weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
Right, let's talk mobile phones. Let's talk smartphones. One thing I can tell you now, that Samsung, in terms of their launches, both in South Africa and global launches, and I've had the privilege of attending some of them, they are always quite spectacular. Now, having said that, last week, Samsung announced the Galaxy S26 series, which has got some very important features. AI, absolutely, obviously, amongst them. But let's find out more about really what that means and why it may well benefit you. With me is Zahir Kaji, the MX lead for product and commercial at Samsung South Africa. Zahir, much appreciate your time here. Thanks for joining us on the National Pulse.
Thank you. How are you, sir?
I'm very good indeed. I get it that you've got the phone in your hand right now, right?
Yeah.
Okay, fine. I did say, Samsung really makes a big deal about their launches because it's that important that you communicate the right message to, a local and a global audience. So let's start with that. How important, how significant is the launch of the Galaxy S26 series?
So S-Series in our portfolio is our flagship and iconic model that we launch on an annual basis. You reference making a big deal. I think it's not just about the product, but it's about us from a brand perspective, leading innovation, leading the technology. And in this particular case, we've been leading in the mobile AI space as well. So there's a lot of new features, and I'm sure we're going to get into it shortly.
Well, let's talk about that. And of course, I'm going to start with AI, not because it's the first letter in the alphabet, because it's top of mind for just most people, isn't it? How does, I understand there's an AI integration into this phone. Tell me what it is and how.
It's as we know, it's a major industry conversation at the moment, but AI in itself, we've evolved it over the last 3 years. S24, we brought the first device with mobile AI. Last year, we were talking generative AI, and now we're talking agentic AI. Agentic AI means we're basically laying a foundation for the agentic era. People are familiar with different agents of AI, meaning Bixby, Gemini, Perplexity, Copilot, ChatGPT, etc. These are all agents. Our devices are now developed and built to operate with multiple agents that operate simultaneously. And this simply means that we're not limited to a specific agent, but it also means that these can work simultaneously on device and give the customer the best experience. And ultimately what it translates to is your device moves from an ask and answer situation to an anticipate and assist. So it's able to understand you contextually. It's able to understand you through the use of on-device, behavioral analysis, etc. And it's able to provide exactly what you need, when you need, before you have to ask and explain.
And you mentioned, the multiple different platforms of under the broad spectrum of AI that is integrated into this Samsung product. Do I take it there's a demand for that? So it's not just, like obviously you mentioned ChatGPT, it's not just one linear arm of AI. There's much more than that, and the demand is there for that.
Yeah, for sure. AI, to be honest now, it's within the top 3 considerations of flagship users, meaning previously customers would come in and ask either for camera, for battery capacity, or different type of functionality. So camera is still the number 1 asked for feature in terms of purchase consideration set, and AI is now at number 3. So this obviously says that from a demand perspective, in terms of customers finding this feature very useful and starting to learn what AI can do for them, it has become a big thing. I think when we talk AI, there's often a misconception or sometimes even a fear in terms of what AI does, from a privacy perspective, in terms of sharing information, in terms of replacing certain functionality, etc. when we talk AI on device, it simply means that it's doing a lot of things that you would do anyways, but it's just doing it a lot faster. It's doing it in the background, and it's giving you more time. It's giving you more seconds in your life. It's giving you more time to enjoy the things that matter, and making things a lot more simpler and easier, actually.
Point taken. You also mentioned, cameras or photographs, and yes, I certainly know that Samsung has always been top of mind when it comes to they take great photos. So, what is the level of innovation this time around? Because I would take it that you can't also stop. You have to get better and better than better.
For sure. So, I mean, from a pure megapixel perspective, we've got a 200 megapixel camera on our flagship S26 Ultra. So that in itself is a big number. But more than that, we've got the Pro Visual Engine. And this is AI powered as well. And there's a lot that happens within the AI and combined with the hardware capability of our devices. To give you some examples, so the apertures itself and the lenses have been widened, meaning in very low lit conditions, you're still getting good quality pictures. Even in video, taking video in low lit or at night, you're still going to get a very clear and vivid picture. Other features that we've brought in to our S26 series is the horizontal lock. So in your super steady video, you can basically get perfectly level shots, even if you're on bumpy trails. So it's a really cool feature. But the real magic, combining AI with camera capability sits within the native photo application that we've got. And this we refer to as the Photo Assist Suite. So taking your photo and, from a content creation perspective, from a creativity point of view, it's estimated that 80 to 90% of content that we see by 2030 will be AI generated. The point of it being is that it takes people a lot of time to edit pictures, and to create the perfect picture that you want. Now we're able to do that on our native application, on device, and by simple voice or text input. So I can literally open a picture and say, change the background from day to night, and it will do that. I can say, change my outfit. It will do that. I can even recreate certain things. Last year we were talking about object eraser, which was a feature where you could remove certain elements from the picture if you didn't want it in there. Now you can recreate something. So if I've taken a bite of a cake, I can literally search it and say recreate it. I can even place that picture into a setting or surrounding and say put it in the kitchen. The intelligence of the AI that we've got on device, it will be able to sense, where's the lighting in the kitchen? Which way should it cast the shadows? And this is how it continuously makes it as realistic as possible.
Wow.
And the same goes with selfies from a tonality perspective, from a texture point of view, from the details. Every individual is as beautiful as they are, and we'd like to show that beauty and individualism in the pictures that are captured.
Okay, and you said it's all integrated. Probably have to look, because I certainly spend lots of time taking video clips and editing them and all, and the default has been Canvas and CapCut and others. And you're saying this will be integrated into the phone on demand, just using my voice. Yeah, need to take that one very, very seriously. What about
CapCut in it? You can basically do that in your native application. You don't need to go to a different app to do the type of content creation that you do.
Okay, got that. What about there's one aspect that I found that's very interesting. You talk about a built-in privacy display. Explain what that means.
That's so cool. It's such a cool feature. So this is actually a breakthrough in pixel level privacy. And to explain it simply and for the listeners as well, is a privacy display historically on all other mobile devices except our S26 Ultra is basically when you buy something that's like a screen protector and put it over the screen, and simply it means that people looking at your device from any other angle but head on won't be able to see. That's what privacy display is. What we've done now is we've basically incorporated this privacy display within the technology of our screen using light dispersion that comes at different angles through the pixels of the display itself. So if you're looking at the display head-on, you'd be able to see what you're looking at. If you're looking at it from a different angle, it obviously, you wouldn't be able to see what's on screen. So you no longer need that screen protector over your device. You actually set it up on device. The beauty about it, though, is it's not just cool because it's a privacy display. It's cool because I can set it on different applications. So meaning I can have my banking app set on privacy display, but my Netflix and Instagram, etc., not on privacy display.
Okay, I see. Interesting indeed.
I can even set different places on the display for privacy. So, for example, where my notifications pop up, I can set that as privacy. So it gives me a lot of flexibility, but still performs the same function.
Okay.
It obviously gets done in a much cooler
All right.
way.
Lastly, quickly, two big questions. When can we get hold of it in terms of physically, me and others, right? And how much money do I have to part with?
Okay, so availability, pre-orders are available immediately. Customers can get it online or at our participating retailers or mobile operators. From a pricing point of view, the S26 Ultra starts at 30,999, the 26 Plus at 25,999, and the 26 Base from 20,999. The cool thing about it is we've got a pre-order offer right now, and that means that any customer purchasing up to the 19th of March gets incredible value. They get a double the storage offer, meaning you pay the price of a 256 gig, but you're getting the 512 gig. So it's an amazing offer. Obviously, on device, we've still got the Care Plus, we've got SOS Plus. There's a lot of value packed into these devices, but that offer is available right now.
Okay. All it needs is for the public to say, hey, do I need to check out the Samsung Galaxy S26 or not? I probably think they're going to say yes. Appreciate your time. Zahir Kaji, MX Lead for Product and Commercial for Samsung South Africa. Right, as you dwell on whether you should get the product or not, let's get the news headlines. Here's Greg.
Thank you, Ashraf. A quick look at the headlines. 6 people have died and 2 unknown to still be trapped under the rubble following a building collapse in Ormonde, south of Johannesburg. The case of 9 suspects arrested in connection with the killing of a lecturer from the Tshwane University of Technology has been postponed to next week. And reports from Sudan say the army has foiled a drone attack on a city in North Kordofan State. There'll be a full update on those stories and other news at 6 o'clock.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N1 northbound in Pretoria is a crash before Sipako Makgato Drive, the M2 eastbound in Cleveland, queuing on the link to the N3 northbound at Geldenhuys Interchange, and the M1 northbound in Braamfontein has a crash near Cross Street. In KZN, the R102 is where pedestrian crashes reported between Shaka's Rock Road and Belito Drive. The N11 in Newcastle has a fatal crash reported near Drakensberg Drive and Umgeni Road westbound, slow moving through Springfield Park. In Cape Town, Delaray Street in Paro's heavy traffic between Voortrekker Road and Francie van Zyl Drive. Baden Powell Drive eastbound in Strandfontein has a crash reported at Witstrand Road, and Main Road southbound has heavy traffic between Kenilworth and Wynberg. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Doming Khapele.
All right, to me, lots of talk about that Standard Bank tie-up with SAFA. So it's not just the one team, it's across the brand. So you will always see Standard Bank sponsoring every single SAFA national team. That's a big deal, isn't it? To me, do I have you there?
Yes, it's definitely a big deal. And South African Football Association CEO Lydia Munyabao says that Standard Bank's new sponsorship for Bafana Bafana, Banyana Banyana, and all the national teams really brings huge relief to their future plans. South Africa's leading banking institution in terms of assets today announced a 4-year sponsorship deal covering all national teams from 2026 to 2030.
To take on a sponsorship of this nature and this kind of value is a long, long road. You know, it takes time to make sure that the organization is aligned to the sports, over all the other sports that are available out there. So it's not something that came about opportunistically. Of course, Bafana qualifying for the World Cup is really important. And of course, Banyana qualifying for WAFCON and performing at the highest levels is also important. But it's also about the growth that we see in the sports, the progressive growth that we see all the way from the junior teams all the way up into senior teams. So that was that value alignment that we're looking for, and we're really happy that we're able to conclude this contract with the South African Football Association.
Meanwhile, Maruma Gallants have announced the suspension of their French head coach Alexandre Lafitte pending an internal disciplinary process relating to failure to comply with contractual duties. This comes after a poor run of form in the Betway Premiership. Gallants have gone 12 matches without a win. They're currently 14th on the log, just above the relegation zone on goal difference, and an acting head coach will be appointed soon. In terms of cricket, South Africa head into Wednesday's T20 World Cup semi-final against New Zealand at Kolkata as the tournament's only unbeaten side. But coach Shukri Conrad has warned against complacency, with India facing England in the other semi-final. Aidan Markram's men are embracing the favourites tag as they chase a first ever T20 World Cup crown.
Obviously, the guys are richer for that experience. They'd have learned so much about themselves. And Aidan has been fantastic, both with bat in hand, as you mentioned, and as a leader as well as a captain. But you're only as good as your troops, and he'd be the first one to admit that. So it's easy to captain a bowling unit that's on top of their game and batters that are firing. But Aidan's, he's been at the forefront of all of everything that we do. I think our experience in the last T20 World Cup will stand us in good stead. And again, when you keep making semi-finals and finals, and I've said this many a time previously, if you continually make semi-finals and finals, eventually you're going to win one.
In rugby, Springbok Sevens playmaker Develd Human says that he is fully fit and eager to contribute again after a lengthy spell on the sidelines. The 30-year-old has not featured since the Singapore tournament last season due to injury, but returns to the HSBC Sevens series and moves into the North American swing. Now, the Blitzboks will compete in back-to-back tournaments in Vancouver on the 7th to the 8th of March and Los Angeles on the 14th to the 15th of March. And Human admits the excitement feels similar to when he first broke into the system back in 2017. Finally, in motorsport, Australian Formula One chief Travis Holt says that travel disruption caused by US-Israeli strikes in Iran is not expected to affect this weekend's season opening Grand Prix in Melbourne. However, around 1,000 race staff have had to change their travel plans due to flight disruptions. Many drivers, engineers and team officials are based in Europe and usually travel through Middle Eastern hubs such as Dubai, Doha and Bahrain on the way to Australia. The unrest has caused major air travel disruption, described as the biggest since the COVID-19 pandemic. With that said, it is a wrap from my side. Thanks
for that, Jimmy. And I've made a note that those semi-finals of the T20 World Cup, it's Wednesday afternoon, the South Africa game, 3:30, if I'm not mistaken, followed by the India game against England. So expect on this show we would have to give you, well, maybe not quite ball by ball, but over by over coverage. I'm sure of that, isn't it?
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
So, Jimmy, you, of course, your show coming up on at 6 o'clock. Now, if you do not even touch on what's happened in Iran and trying to make us understand it, then I'm switching to my channel.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Good afternoon to the listeners. I was up in the early hours of the morning to see how the markets would open. I had an idea of how the markets would open, so I wasn't too surprised when the oil price was up 5% and the gold price was up 5% in the early hours of the morning. The markets have still since cooled ever so slightly in the case of the gold price, but not so much in the case of the Brent crude price. That's currently sitting at $78.70 a barrel. For context, at some point, we were below $70 a barrel, and at one stage towards the latter part of last year, we were below $60 a barrel. So clearly the tensions filtering through into the markets, the oil price being the most obvious to feel it, but alongside that risk sentiment hurrying investors into the gold price. At the moment, a kilogram of gold is now almost 2.8 million rand. It's at around 2.77 million rands for a kilogram of gold there, with the gold price as it stands. Equity markets suffering on the day's trade, expectedly so, of course, with most markets in the red more than 1%. The Hang Seng in Hong Kong, the biggest loser in Asian markets, down 2.1%. The European markets didn't fare any better. The CAC 40 and the DAX in Germany down more than 2% in each case there. The FTSE in London down 1.5%. Local markets weren't spared, with resources down 0.9%, which is modest compared to the other movements. Industrials down 1.1%, financials down 1.8%, the all share down 1.1%, the top 40 down 1.25%. US markets are still trading into the evening. They are down the least at the moment, 0.4% in the case of the Nasdaq and 0.22% in the case of the S&P at the moment. The rand not faring any better against the US dollar, losing almost a full percent, 16 rand 17 cents, 21.63 against the British pound, and 18 rand 91 against the euro. One Australian dollar, 11 rand and 42 cents. One Bitcoin at some stage was at 1,018,000. It's back at 1,050,000 or 1,060,000 rands in that case. In terms of what's coming up on the show, we're definitely going to be discussing the market movements. I've got the privilege of speaking to Rand Swiss's Gary Boyson on markets. I want to get his thoughts around some of the international moves that we've been seeing and how they're affecting what they're doing from a portfolio perspective. But the other side of the conversations include company updates. We're going to get updates from RCL Foods and Bidvest. We're going to speak to both chief executives of those respective companies and get a sense of the performances that we are seeing there. We're starting to see South African companies reporting on numbers, interim results and full year results. So that's going to be stuff we're going to be updating our listeners on as well, alongside the developments obviously that are happening around the world. We've also got a conversation with the team at Absa Business Banking around the transport and logistics sector in South Africa and how they're seeing that sector's value. Then we've got a conversation with Naked as part of our personal finance chat, looking at understanding written off vehicles and how to navigate those. And then we've got a special parting conversation with the outgoing CEO of the JSE in Dr. Leila Fourie. She is, of course, set to step down. And before she does that, she's going to give us one final update on the performance of the JSE and how that has fared over the last period. So that's what's coming up on the show today. Certainly going to be a busy show, certainly, or by all accounts, likely to be a very busy week. I don't think that the tensions that we're seeing in the Middle East are going to let up anytime soon. And so from a markets perspective, we're going to be keeping a close eye on a lot of movements throughout the week. A lot of them might even happen overnight and into early morning hours. And so some of the updates we might even be doing across social pages and not having to wait for the show. But for the moment, we will be bringing all of the latest news to the show just after the 6 p.m. news. Until then, Ashraf, back to you.
And I'll tell you what, just talking about Leila Fourie, had the privilege of interacting with quite a formidable business leader, as you know, and having had the privilege of a good one-on-one conversation with her in her office at the JSE. So do give her my regards as she gets to the last few days of her term as the boss of the JSE.
When music meets nature, something unforgettable happens. Symphony by the Water, a world-class live music experience set against the breathtaking beauty of Midmar Dam, featuring the KZN Philharmonic Orchestra, Spogazi, the Black Lapels, Saturday, the 7th of March, 2026. Day tickets from 150, evening tickets from 350. Tickets available at WebTicket and Pick n Pay. Symphony by the Waters, where sound flows. Ashraf Garda on the National Pulse.
Right, so we've got, 15 minutes or so to go. Now, either we can do something else or I can talk to you. What would you prefer? Of course, we have to talk to you. We're on the pulse, and you are a major contributor to understanding, seriously what is the pulse of the nation. What does the nation really feel, okay? So let's get to comments. We're going to get to a call first. Alba in Sky City. Hi, Alba.
Hi, how are you, sir?
Yeah, good indeed, right? What's your point?
I want to talk about the Orange Man and his friend Netanyahu, what they did. It is so strange because I hear people always, and the most special the U.S. talking about the rule-based order. And I don't even know who made those rules, because if ever there were rules, the US themselves, they always break those rules. And currently, when I look at our country, because they always say this, they always continue saying that there is white genocide. Then I start questioning if in reality, what they always say that there is this such a thing in this country, that is why we had to topple the leader. Is it really, or is just that they put on a narrative so that they can justify their actions?
Well, listen, I mean, nobody's really clear what exactly their plans are. Or some may say it's expansionist. Others are like, no, they are truly trying to save the world. And if the Iranians are doing wrong and they're not listening to them, they need to be the policeman and fix them up. You can have your own perspective on that one there. Yeah.
They're doing wrong according to who? That's the thing.
Well, that's the big debate. And you've just put that on the agenda. Alba in Sky City, thank you. Right, there's a lot of comment, and I found this one very interesting because we're talking about KwaZulu-Natal to just KwaZulu.
Hello, Ashraf. Is Cape Town now going to be Koi Town? Are we going to change the name to Koi Town because of the historical people that were there in the Cape, the Khoi? Is Cape Town going to become Koi Town?
Do you want it to be?
Afternoon, Mr. Ashraf. Isilo Umisizulu is spot on. My question is why ANC is always against Umbuso wakaZulu? It's Qanqoshiba here, Ekopo, Kwaqwathaza, KZN.
Why do you think they're always against it? I mean, what suggests they're against it this time around? They haven't even responded, actually. Have they?
Good afternoon, Ashraf. It is high time that we drop all colonial names, but we must be very careful not to, descend into the slippery slope of ethno-linguistic subcultural cleavages. Because if Natal is going to be called KwaZulu, it means we will then have another province called Botswanaland in Northwest. We may have Basotho Land in Free State, Xhosa Land, and so forth and so on. Now the danger there is that instead of uniting as Africans, we are going to, go exactly where Pharaoh Wood wanted us, which is division among African people. So we need to be very careful. Yes, remove KwaZulu, but come up with something that is all-encompassing, that is unifying, rather than just saying KwaZulu. We know that we've got a place called Venda, and it's strictly for Venda people. It's also not right.
Okay, there we are. Well, I'll tell you what, you've raised an important point. So is this a move towards, sort of a nationalistic drive more than anything else? And is that dangerous to you? Shata in Cape Town, go for it. Hello.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. How are you?
I'm good indeed. What's your point?
By the way, Shata from Koi Town.
Yeah, got that. Yeah, I see that. So already it's happened like in 1 minute. Koi Town.
In 1 minute, that is.
There we are.
No, I got really excited hearing that. Ashraf, on a serious note. Yeah. Really, Trump has got law enforcement officers abusing and harassing people in America, and nobody can say anything against Trump. People in America of any other races except white live in fear because of the government of Donald Trump. And he still thinks it's righteous for himself to go out and be a policeman of justice in other countries. How can one be so bigoted and so hypocritical? It shocks. And you know what? Certain people in South Africa, apartheid beneficiaries, will appreciate Donald Trump. We all know why. They will celebrate Israel. We know why. Settlers will support each other. Thank you, Ashraf.
Thanks for that, Shota. From Koi Town. No, I can't say it again because we're like, what's going on here? But listen, your point is interesting about Donald Trump and the USA and Israel. There's a growing sense amongst many people that they pitch themselves up as the defenders of human rights. And then so much of what they do is done unilaterally because they believe that's the way to do it. And they just go out and do it anyway. Yeah, that does come through from so many conversations, not just callers. I'm talking about commentators around the world. There's even that happening now. Right, more comments. Right, what about the king?
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Patrick here from Elim. Ashraf, I don't agree with the king there. Changing the name into KwaZulu. What difference is it going to make? What difference is it going to make? At the end of the day, it's not going to accommodate everyone. Then tomorrow people, they're going to start practicing tribalism. And I think that is not a good move. And also the professor that you have there in your studio, I don't think he's also guiding the South Africans to the right direction. As South Africans, we need to be a rainbow nation. Wherever you are, you need to feel comfortable and happy. And we mustn't change these names because it's going to be a waste of money and waste of time. I don't agree with that. Patrick here from Elim.
Thank you. Waste of money, waste of time. Don't agree with the historian and the professor. Interesting thoughts that you've got. We certainly have democracy on the airwaves here. That's for sure.
Ashraf, the Zulu nation are the ones who must make a call on this. The king has pronounced on it. We have our own culture that we will prefer to follow. So if the king has pronounced on it, I'm very much happy with the change because we want to maintain and retain our heritage. What other provinces or other traditions are doing, I don't think they should impose on how we should feel and how we should react.
Okay, but you see the point is that, I mean, the king is the king, but how much clout does he have politically in South Africa?
So you thought you were building a business in this economy, but day by day, somehow it grew. You kept going when the freezer didn't freeze, the bucket didn't budge, and the bank balance barely blinked. So you thought you were building a business. You weren't. It was building you. Because this isn't just what you do anymore. It's who you are. And you don't trust just anybody to protect it. Chat to your broker about Old Mutual Insure Business Insurance. Protect what built you. Old Mutual Insure Limited is a licensed FSP and non-life insurer.
The National Pulse, weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
Right, there's a whole lot more comments coming from you, so let's pick it up. And a lot of it refers to the speech directly. Here's one very much in support of the king.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. I guess the king is right. There's nothing wrong in naming your place by the name of the people who live there. There's nothing wrong in that. Eastern Cape can become coastal land or what? It's still okay. There's no problem. The king didn't say any other people who are living there must go away. We must take that out of the equation and out of the argument.
But why is it so important? Meaning, like you said, you can call it causal land, so what? Like, just go ahead and do it anyway. Do we really want to do that? Or do we want to then define places by their region? So, Eastern Cape, Western Cape, which is neutral. And the people who live there, they can speak whichever language they want. That's their business and their cultures. But it's not defined by just one culture, right? Pat in Katlehong, hi.
How are you, Ashraf?
Yeah, I'm good indeed. Go for it.
Ashraf, I agree with the lady. Unfortunately, we can't be left out as long as we are the taxpayers and we are paying him as well. So we are still entitled to our opinion as well. I think if it happens that there should be a plebiscite, it should involve all the South Africans, not only the Zulu people, because we are all taxpayers in this country.
You really think you're being left out at this point in time?
No, in fact, you are not left out. I think, in this case, those autocratic tendencies are surfacing actually because he told the legislature. He didn't find out from the legislature. Go and find out from our subjects if it would be appropriate if we could switch the name. You see, he didn't do that. He just imposed. He told the legislature. So in that case, then I think he's wrong.
But the question is how much power does the legislature have does he have over the legislature to effect that change? And that's what we're going to find out, isn't it? Pat in Katlehong, thank you for that. Right, right. There's more.
Good afternoon, Asrayo, and your people listener. I can say Transvaal must go back to Leboa because he's falling from Limpopo. What can I say that? If they will call these names as a tendency of majority of people, or majority of language, or majority of race, it's wrong. It's totally wrong. Because I can say Transvaal must go back to say Leboa. And how big it is, Transvaal? It's too big.
Transvaal go back to Leboa. Well, there you are. Imagine that. Joseph, you see, that's the point. Where does it stop? Joseph in Gqeberha. Hi, Joseph.
Hi, Ashraf. How are you, man?
Yeah, good talking to you. Go for it.
No, you know what? I think Kim, I think they divide us because you remember Orania. On my way now to Port Elizabeth. From Port Elizabeth to Postmasburg, I'm going to pass there. You know, it was Halabaloo at Orania. Now what? That is wrong. Because now it's blacks, it's Zulu. Where is Halabaloo? Come on. I want to comment there.
But there is Halabaloo. I mean, you're making Halabaloo about it now already. There is.
No, I'm worried. Why now it's blacks? It's quiet now. So Orania is there. So they say they're practicing their culture or whatever. The same Orania was saying that. It was Halabaloo.
Yeah.
So I'm still waiting for comment.
Well, let's see if others do comment. Joseph in Gqeberha. Thank you for that, right? Okay, here's another about the king.
In Limpopo, Vembe district was the Republic of Venda. So does it mean that the district must change to Venda district? No. Bomurwa here, Limpopo.
You see, there's lots of people now looking at other possibilities. If you agree with one, where do you stop? Because according to me, unless I've got it wrong, there's none of the provinces have a complete ethnic slant. The closest is KwaZulu Natal. Yeah.
Mr. Ashraf, good afternoon. Great week for you ahead. It is always amazing that those in privileged position financially, they are the ones who tend to spend money in changing names of towns, cities, hospitals, even provinces, but not changing the lives of the people they claim to serve.
Not changing the lives. You see, that's an important question. What's more important? I mean, ideally you'd want to have both, right? But what's more important? If it is. Right, maybe time for two more. Right, here's an interesting one.
Afternoon, Flores from the beautiful winelands. Ashraf, I was born and bred in the beautiful town of Stellenbosch, one of the oldest towns in the country. And the name comes from Simon van der Stel and his wife Maria Bos, and they took their surnames, and that's why Stellenbosch was named. So yeah, I'm not sure when they're going to change Stellenbosch.
If they change it, you wouldn't be born in Stellenbosch any longer, so point made, right? Here we are.
Ashraf, good afternoon, and the SAFM listeners. Ashraf, it means even KwaZulu must be removed, because it will be recognizing the Zulus at KwaZulu. So it must be another name, not KwaZulu. Zulu. So because all the provinces are not named about the people that are living there. So even KwaZulu, it must be removed. Thank you. Kipulema Orange Farm.
Okay, you're saying drop them both. Yo, that's going to get some people worked up, isn't it? Right, time for two more. Here's another.
Afternoon, Ashraf. They must leave KZN like that. It's KwaZulu Natal. It's the only province in South Africa with a surname. We are cool with it. They must just leave it like that. There is nothing wrong with KZN. Shoti Sinyolo Mafefe Limpopo.
Okay.
Thank you, Ashraf.
Thank you, that's Shorty KZN. Let's end with a comment about the biggest story in the world at the moment.
Hi, Ashraf. Ashraf, speaking about this war, Israeli, USA, Iran. If they wanted the nuclear power from Iran, why didn't they go take it? They're so powerful. Why are they killing people? 90 girls in a school, 20 people in a sports center. You want to bring down a regime. That's the belief. How can you bring it down? That is what they believe in. And then again, they want the oil. They want the free movement through Hormuz so the tankers can move freely with the oil that they steal from Iran. They're already stealing oil from other parts of Middle East. Donald Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu want Zionism to live on. They want to kill all the Muslims in the world.
How do you know that?
Thank you, bye.
They want to kill all Muslims. Zionism is not just that. Like the last part, how do you know that part? I hear everything else you said, and the other is like a total generalization, which we get a lot of on the show, and we shouldn't have anyway. All right, that's the show. Catch us tomorrow, 6 o'clock. 3 to 6. So set the alarms now. Podcast available of everything we've done. Go to the website, you'll find it. Thanks for listening. Here's the news at 6 with Greg.
Thank you again. Ashraf's death toll rises in Joburg building collapse. An interministerial committee to address foot and mouth outbreak. Good evening. 6 people have died and 2 are known to still be trapped under the rubble following a 2-story building collapse in Omonde, south of Johannesburg.